Hello and welcome to Defense Diaries. I'm your host, Bob Mata, and I'm joined once again by my beautiful and brilliant co-host, Allie. What's up, girl?
Hey, babe. Hey, all.
So, pretty excited about tonight. How about you?
Very excited. But I think what we should do first before we bring our guest on is explain the photograph you can't really see behind us, and how Aidan Kearney, or Turtleboy, is a Gonzo journalist.
He is. So, if you guys have seen the thumbnail, I told Mandy, who makes our thumbs, who's our ride or die, I'm like, all right, I need you to capture what I'm trying to get at here. And Aidan is, well, that's just a scene from the movie.
Oh, so yeah.
But our thumbnail, I said Aidan is he's basically Hunter S. Thompson reincarnated. If you know anything about Hunter S. Thompson and you have any idea of what he did throughout his career, probably his most famous book was Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. But I mean, he dug deep, man. This dude, like, he basically lived with the Hells Angels for about 6 months so he could get deep into their shit and figure out what they were all about. So, and he was considered to be counterculture, right? Because he was bucking what the mainstream was doing. Like, that wasn't what he was about. He was about the First Amendment. He was about freedom of the press, and he was about exposing corruption. And he told his stories in a way that really no one else did. I mean, when they coined the term Gonzo journalist, it was about Hunter S. Thompson. And I'm an old man. I grew up reading Thompson. My father and my uncle, their favorite book of all time was Fear and Loathing. So as you can imagine, as a young dude, I used to hear about this book all the time. And when I finally was old enough to kind of understand what it was about, I started reading Thompson myself. And Aidan, I'm telling you flat out, is the embodiment of everything that Hunter S. Thompson was. And I'm just going to kind of give you a brief before we have him join us. I want to explain what it is in terms of, this is what the robot says. So I put in the robot. I said, yo, robot, how would you describe Gonzo journalism? So Gonzo journalism embraces the reporter's personal experiences, emotions, and opinions as integral to the story. It's written in the first person, giving the reader an intimate perspective on the events as they unfold through the journalist's eyes. Gonzo journalists immerse themselves in the events they were reporting on, often becoming active participants rather than detached observers. This approach aims to provide a deeper, more visceral understanding of the subject matter. And they use various literary devices such as stream of consciousness, hyperbole, humor, and sarcasm to create a unique and engaging narrative. Does that any of this shit sound familiar to y'all?
Sounds familiar.
It should. Embellishes real events with imaginative details or dialogue to convey a deeper emotional truth. Gonzo journalism can blend factual reporting with fictional elements or exaggeration, often to enhance the narrative and convey deeper truths about society and culture. The characteristics have led to debates about the ethics of the style and the importance of journalistic integrity. So Gonzo journalism often presents critique of society and culture, often through a darkly comedic lens. So that gives you a pretty good idea of what our guest is about tonight, because this guy's a bad motherfucker. And I'm just here to tell you that straight out. And that's lawyer speak for you, in case you don't know. And if you're new to our channel, Allie and I are both criminal defense attorneys. It may not seem like I am one, but I am. Allie's way more professional than I am, but I'm really excited to have Aidan on, and let's bring him on. Boom. What's up, homie?
Thanks, man. That was quite the entrance. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I mean every word of it. You know, I want to kind of be able to do a few things tonight. I know you've been doing the circuit, and you know, I know you've answered a lot of questions, you know, regarding the case and you know, kind of your involvement with it, and you know, but like I want to get to know you a little bit more. I think that, you know, because what you do when you go on is Gonzo journalism, man. It's satirical, it's fucking hilarious, it's ballsy, it's all the things that 99% of journalists are terrified to do.
And apparently the government is trying to prevent anyone else from trying to do it again.
Yeah,
Don't do that shit, because we're coming for you.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's where shit gets real when we start talking about your case. You know, and I told you before we came on air, you know, Allie and I are all in. We're covering your thing. I fully intend on coming to your trial.
If hopefully there is none.
Hopefully
there is none. You know,
knock on wood.
Trial's always rolling the dice. You know,
100%. It most definitely is. Yeah, hopefully it goes away with a bullshit plea on some kind of bullshit, and then just the whole thing's done. Because yeah, trial's scary. That's the fact of the matter. Trial is a terrifying proposition, and you know, and I'm always trying to tell people, I'm like,
peace. All right, I'll plead.
Yeah, disturbing the peace at most.
Would you plead out to disturbing the peace, Aidan?
Yeah, I would take a quaff on disturbing the peace. If that could end this all, sure. What the fuck? Yeah, because I disturbed the peace. There's no doubt about it. Guilty as charged. It was quiet, and then I showed up, and it wasn't so quiet. So you got me.
All right. So we do want to start with Aidan Kearney, the human being, before we grow into Turtleboy, Dr. Turtleboy, and Uncle Turtleboy. So, babe,
and Daddy, Daddy Turtleboy,
Crowd Daddy. That's
right.
what Alan Jackson named me. So
right. All right, so let's start with a young Turtleboy. Give us.
No, a young Aidan.
Yes,
but,
young
know,
Aidan. Turtleboy doesn't exist yet.
From his, you know, his journalist personality.
Yeah, I don't know. Like as a kid, I was always just mischievous, up to, you know, shenanigans, if you will. I kept my mom really busy. I was the oldest of 7 kids, and you know, I was like more work than the other 6 combined. She always told me, and so I was always just like a handful. And you know, I went to college, went to UMass Amherst. I majored in history, became a history teacher, did that.
Did you always want, when you majored in history, was that what you saw yourself doing, becoming a teacher, or were you going to do something else with it?
Well,
because it's an unusual.
I wish I had a better story for this, but it was the only major I could get into because it didn't have prerequisite GPA requirement. My GPA when I graduated from college was 2.08. So like it was like a solid just getting by, and everything else you had to have like a 3.0 or nothing. So that was literally the only thing I could major in, because I was a horrible student. Like I don't like school. I don't like structure. I don't, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like I like doing my own thing. Like I like building my own thing. I don't like doing something else. So like, you know, and I'm like, I liked college. I mean, I had a great time at college. I would never trade the fun memory. It was fun. But like I look back at it now, I'm like, I could have started Turtleboy like right out of high school if I wanted to. Like, but then again, you know, life experiences. College does teach you how to become like a good writer, because you have to write a lot in college and whatever. So yeah, I graduated. I taught in Worcester, my hometown, for 2 years, and then I taught at this regional school called Shepherd Hill in the Worcester County area for 9 years. And while I was teaching there, you know, I have a lot of controversial opinions on stuff, right? And I was like, always trying to share them on Facebook. I posted on Facebook a lot, and it was like kind of getting me in trouble a little bit. And I started a blog called aidanfromworcester.com. And because I used to call into this sports talk radio show called Felger and Maz a lot, and I was Aidan from Worcester, and I would just, they always let me go for a long time because I ranted on there and they liked it. It was good radio.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, I'll start a blog called aidanfromworcester.com. And it kind of took off a little bit, but then my opinions are somewhat controversial on a lot of stuff. So parents complained about it and were like, he's saying this, and this is offensive.
Wait,
blah,
so
blah, blah.
how long, give me time frame. How long ago is this?
So I started aidanfromworcester.com in early 2013.
Okay.
Right. And it lasted about 9 months, and I built up a decent sized following. But then I got in trouble with it, and I got suspended from school for 5 days. I forget the exact. Oh, it was, what got me in trouble was, so there was this story with the Miami Dolphins. I don't know if you guys follow sport ball, but there was this guy named Jonathan Martin. He was an offensive lineman for the Dolphins, and he said that he was bullied by his teammate Richie Incognito.
I remember the story well.
He was like, quit football over at it. It was this whole thing. And like, I wrote about it, and I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. I'm like, this guy plays in the NFL. He's a first round draft pick. He's 6'5", 320. He's being bullied. Bro, you play football. You can't be bullied. I go, this is the most overused word right now in the English language, was bullied. Nobody stands up for themselves anymore, blah, blah, blah. Apparently that was in violation of our school's anti-bullying policy or something like that. And they said I got called down to the principal's office, and they're like, if a student read this, they wouldn't feel comfortable coming to you because you'd side with the bully, basically. So I'm like, okay. So I realized then that like, this is not the kind of profession you can have controversial opinions on openly. So if I want to do this, I have to have anonymity. So I was like, let's start a second blog, and I'll just make it anonymous. And I'm like, well, what am I going to call it? Well, there's this statue in downtown Worcester of what appears to be a boy. He's releasing a turtle like into the wild. It's like right beyond City Hall. But what it looks like, if you look at the statue, it looks like he's fucking it. And like the turtle is screaming. It's the funniest statue you've ever seen. And it's like, it's been there for over 100 years. It's like the funniest statue, the Turtleboy statue. So I'm like, well, let's call myself Turtleboy because I'm from Worcester. So, I started it anonymously, and then it kind of started growing and growing and growing. And then I ended up getting doxxed in late 2014 after we went to a Patriots game in Buffalo. And I wrote about my experiences up there. I took some videos of Buffalo fans. We won. We always used to beat them when we had Tom Brady. It was good times. And, they would yell at us, and it was all in good fun. But I wrote about my experience up there, and it kind of made them look bad. And some Buffalo fan figured out who I was and like kind of doxed me. I found out what doxing
How
was.
did you essentially?
Yeah, I got like doxed. Like that word's overused a lot, but like they're like, here's his name, here's where he works, here's their contact information. Wow. And next thing you know, the school was just getting flooded with like hundreds of phone calls and emails from Buffalo Bill fans who are like, you're employing this guy. He's a piece of shit. And they're making things up. He's a pervert, this and that. So anyway, I got called down to the principal's office again. I'm already on pretty thin ice. And, it was a dicey issue because, I have a union representation, and they're like, well, we're going to defend you if, we're going to get you a lawyer if you need it, but they want this to go away. And the easiest way for this to go away is for them to just pay you and, write you a letter of recommendation, and this goes away quietly that way. And so they offered me a full year's salary, and because it was in like October or November this happened. So I would get paid for the rest of the year, and I would get a letter of recommendation if I wanted to get another teaching job. And so they just wanted to get rid of it. You know what I mean? Like that's what schools do, just like sweep shit under the rug. Yeah, and so like, make it go away. And so I'm like, you know what? I feel like my Turtleboy had become big enough at that point where I could, I have a year's head start because I have a year's salary to work with here. And, let's give it a shot. Let's try to turn this into a business. Let's try to turn this into my livelihood. And so I would go around knocking on doors, trying to sell advertising space in my blog. I did that.
And at this point, was it all sports related still?
No, it was hardly ever sport. Nobody read my sports shit. It was like people wanted controversy. That's when people like controversy. They like, and they like hard, like the biggest blog I wrote early on that really got everyone's attention. Everybody calls it Busgate. It was this story in 2014 in Worcester where like this elementary school bus goes to drop off these kids in like the ghetto, like one of the worst neighborhoods in Worcester. And the parents, like apparently the kindergartners have to get off first before everyone else. But one of these like ratchet parents went on the bus and like tried to pull their third grader off first or something like that. And when that happens, they close the door. Like the bus driver's like trained to close the door. So they did. And they like shut the bus down. And these parents started like videotaping, open the fucking door. And they like declared war on the bus. And then they went like full Blair Witch style. Like they raided the bus. They had one of their kids open a back door. They ran on the bus. It was freaking crazy.
Wow.
And so I wrote about it because everyone in Worcester was talking about this video. And I just blasted the parents. I called them like, made fun of them for wearing pajamas at that hour of the day and just being ratchet. And it just resonated with people because I was saying what people were thinking, and because people are like, yeah, good. People don't hate shitheads. They hate shitty behavior, right? They like to see it called out. And so that's kind of how I got my, built my brand and did my bread and butter. And I would write stories like that all the time, but I would also mix in, like occasionally I'd get like a hot scoop on some, real matter of public concern, often involving, ironically, like the state police. And in 2017, for instance, I became aware, I got contacted by a couple troopers, Massachusetts state troopers, and they were like, there is a trooper in the Holden Barracks, which is actually the town I live in now, which DeChico got sent here. I guess he's been rehomed as well. So he pulled someone over. His name was Ryan Skevior. He's originally from Canton, believe it or not. He used to be a Canton cop, and he's a state trooper now. And so he pulled over a woman on the highway, and she was high, right? And she had a whole bunch of heroin on her. As it turns out, her dad is a judge in the town of Dudley. And so she tells him, she says in the police report, she asks him, do you know how many, he takes the heroin and she goes, do you know how many dicks I had to suck to get that? And she like begs him, don't take it. And then she offers to give him a blowjob if she lets him go. And he just documents it all. He writes it all in his report. She gets arrested. And next thing you know, this judge is very good friends with Worcester County DA Joe Early. And Joe Early then hears about it, and this embarrasses the judge's family, and contacts the colonel, Richard McEwen, and says, you got to get this trooper to take this thing out of his report. You got to get him to take that line out about like how many dicks I sucked. Yeah. And because it's humiliating to the Bevo family. And so it goes down the line. The major orders, he's a rookie. He's like 2 or 3 years on the job. He's like in his late 20s, Skevior. And he refuses. He does not take it out. He's like, that's what she said. I'm not taking it out because it embarrasses the judge's family. Right. And so he ends up getting disciplined for this, for being honest and not kind of going along with what you're supposed, not being a diva, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so and that's why cops go along with it, because they get disciplined, when they don't. And so I write about it. So all the other troopers are mad about this because this guy did the right thing and he's being disciplined by these higher ups who are influenced by politicians. And so I write about it, and it ends up blowing up. The story becomes huge because they get their hands on the before and after police report, and they're very different. Wow. And the district attorney is the one that stuck his nose in this and ordered them to do this to an honest cop. And so as a result of this, we call it Troopergate now around here. And this cop, or rather the state police colonel, Richard McEwen, his Lieutenant Colonel Francis Hughes, and Major Sue Anderson all had to resign in disgrace over this scandal. Wow. And so I did that. It was I just writing this story did that. So, and the state police loves me. That was you supporting the state police, them wanting to get their story out through you. Yeah. I didn't get tickets. You know, when I get pulled over,
Yeah.
I always get a warning. You know, like
Yeah.
when because I've done good by the police. You know, and I've
Right.
always like protected. You know, and I stood up for honest cops, and I did it
Right.
during the Black Lives Matter stuff. I always stood up for honest cops. And against this narrative that all cops are bad and blah, 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 blah. And so, yeah, I mean, my relationship with the police was very good. And it still is now. A lot of cops very much like me now, but I don't know which ones don't now. It's
Yeah.
state
So
police.
it's scary.
That's a
And when
scary
you're
part.
dealing with small towns and corruption like that, where you say something good, you don't get tickets, you do something bad, well, we can see what happens. But even outside of this, like, you know, you get pulled over, who knows what they could do.
Yeah. It's funny because the town cops are good. I mean, like town cops, city cops, they're fine. Like I'm not worried about them. It's the state ones, the guys with the hats.
Right.
Those are the ones that worry me sometimes
Yeah.
because it's so I have a good buddy who's one of my best friends is a trooper, and you know he knows he's not stupid. He knows Karen Reed didn't do this, and he's like, but he goes on the job. Probably like 60% of troopers think she's guilty. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Where like 95% of the population thinks she's innocent. But like in this particular job, 60% of them are so inclined to be like, no. Troopers wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. And they just instinctively are like, no, she did it. This is all another scheme to make police look bad. And they just become defensive. It's insane. It's just like if you pull 100 state troopers, I swear to God, like 60 to 70 of them will say Karen Reed's guilty.
It's crazy. And
that's crazy.
It plays right into, and I didn't want to jump. I wanted to get to know you, the person, more, but this is
sorry. I skipped around.
No. I mean, it's you know, it's fluid, and but at your hearing today, the prosecutor was like, I mean, it's ridiculous. We're supposed to just start looking into corruption and acting like there's corruption and taking good process. And I'm like, what fucking world are we living in? Like, hello, hello, McFly, you know, but it takes so much for people to get out of that mindset that has no self-awareness. That like, well, wait a minute, we've got to be open to the possibility, especially given the facts that are before the court on your case, which involve people colluding. I mean, I don't know where he thinks like colluding, but the possibility of planting evidence, you know, like things don't just snap and happen, and all levels of corruption lead to more corruption, but you know, they just refuse to acknowledge it. It seems like your judge is open to it. Do you get that sense?
Oh, way better. Doolin is very fair.
Yeah.
Very fair. As judges, that should be the first word to describe any judge is fair.
Always.
If that's not the first word to describe a judge, then they're not doing their job right.
They shouldn't be on the bench.
They're there to be fair, right? To call, just like umps, just like refs, they're called balls and strikes.
That's it.
Exactly. You're not supposed to favor a team. And so, yeah, like I don't think he would do me any favors if he thought I was guilty. Right. Or if I had done something wrong, I don't expect anything from him, nor do I want it. You know, I just want to be treated fairly. And I think that if I'm treated fairly in this whole thing, then I'll have a positive outcome.
Yeah, I agree.
So let me just take a step back, babe. I'm sorry. Teaching. What age did you teach?
So I taught 11th graders, which is a really good age to teach because they're more mature than, you know, freshmen or middle schoolers or whatever. And they're not seniors. Seniors are the worst because they don't want to do anything. They turn into different people senior year, but junior is like the most important year for college. So you got to get good grades. And, you know, I worked them hard, you know, and it's like, you get your license that year. It's like, it's kind of the year that you become close to, you know, you're on a transition to be an adult your junior year. So I really love teaching 11th grade, and I did it for 9 years, and, I loved it. I was not to brag, but I was pretty good at it. Like I didn't teach advanced placement. I always wanted to teach AP US history because I took AP and stuff in high school. And if you pass the AP test, if you get like a 4 or 5, you get 3 college credits. That actually helps you a lot when you get to college. One less class you got to take. Yeah. And so I didn't teach AP history, but I knew a couple of the kids on the track team because I coached the track team that were in it, and they weren't really like prepared for the test. And so because no offense to our teacher, but he was like one of these older guys who's just clocking it in. You know,
Yeah.
it was like a Cosgrove, if you can
Mailing that
imagine
shit
in the
at this
classroom,
point.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I would meet them before school. We would get there like 6:30 a.m. and we would just drill history and whatever. And you know, they ended up getting 4s and 5s on the test. And then after a while, like, so I started doing this more and more, and I started to, and this was kind of controversial. Like, I would have kids who were in my class, which was not advanced placement. I would have them take the test anyway, because you can take the AP test without being enrolled in AP history class. So I would,
and then get the credits in college.
yeah. So I would
Yeah.
identify kids in my class who were advanced, who were getting like high A's. And I'm like, my class is a breeze for you guys. I'm like, you should take the AP history test. And like, I will prep you for that. Cause it's like how US history works is you take sophomore year, you take US history up to the Civil War. And then junior year, you take it after the Civil War up to the present. And AP history is both of them kind of combined. So like, I have taught you guys everything Civil War on, but now I need to prep you in the morning for all that other stuff from sophomore year that you've probably forgotten about, because that's half the test. So I got to get you ready for that. So, you know, and so I started getting kids that would get 4s and 5s on the AP US history test that never took the class.
Yeah.
And so like, because I wanted to teach US history, but teaching isn't really like a merit-based job. Like, you don't advance by working hard or being good. And that's why a lot of teachers just clock it in, because you get paid the same no matter what.
Right.
But why was it so controversial? I mean, if I was a parent and I had a teacher going out of his way to identify kids who could excel at this, get the college credits, like what was the school's, why was that controversial in your school?
It was controversial with the AP history teacher.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of showing them up.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it was, so that's where it was a little bit controversial. But I'm like, you know what? Screw it. These kids have a right to take the test. It's not about you. 100%. It's about them. Yeah. So, you know, sorry if this hurts your ego. Yeah. But like, it's not about us. It's about them. Right. So, you know, that's,
I mean, in theory, it's supposed to be, you know, and it's like, we live in you know, because I grew up just outside of Chicago in this suburb.
I can't tell by
no, it's like I never know you were like a Boston guy either.
Yeah.
Right? Like I never know. You know, but it was like we were right outside of like the west side of Chicago, like the Austin neighborhood, which is as rough as you can get. Fucking hyper violent, crime is out of control, has been for decades. And you know, it's like, but when you look at like who they can recruit in the inner cities because of what they're willing to pay. And you know, and if you're coming out of college and you're like, I'm going to teach, you know, where are you going to go in terms of, are you going to go to a school that's highly regarded, that you're going to be paid better, or are you going to go work in the fucking city where you're not protected and you're not paid well? So it's kind of that, like that cyclical thing where you're just not getting good teachers, and it just kind of self-perpetuates.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it was, for me, like Oak Park was just a fucking great.
Wait, you're from
town.
Oak Park?
Yeah.
My uncle's from Oak. Oh, so, okay. So when after the Buffalo thing happened, it was like, so it was very stressful because all these people were contacting the school, and I'd never had anything like this before. And so they put me on paid leave while they figured things out. And I didn't know what I was going to do. Well, my uncle lives in Oak Park, and he's like, you got to come out here. He's like, just come out here for, you know, a week or so and just live with me. And I'm going to show you around. He owns a water treatment business, and I didn't know anything about water treatment. He's like, he goes, I don't want you to get into water treatment, but I just want you to start thinking about how to start your own business. Like, start thinking in that meant stop. It was like Jay-Z. He's like, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman, you know. And that's the way you got to view yourself, is like, you can be the business in America. You can just start, like, that's the beauty of this country, is you can just start your own shit. Yeah. And as long as you can figure out how to pay your bills, then you can be self-sufficient, and you can become, we're conditioned to like go to school, get a job, work for someone else. We're not conditioned and taught that, like, no, you can be the job. You don't have to get a job. You can be the job. And so, long story short, he brought me out there to Oak Park for a week. So I had no idea you were from Oak Park.
Yeah, man. I'm an Oak Park kid, man. And it was, and I went through the same shit. Like when I decided that I was going to leave the law, I was 23 years in, man, and it's criminal defense work is grilling. It's grueling rather. And it's just because it eats on you, it's like you're up against it. You're dealing with just the power of the government, case after case after case. And that was like one of the things that really hit home for me with your coverage, especially because you were able to put so many eyes on this case in terms of, I've been trying to build my podcast and my channel for 3 years, trying to explain what defense attorneys really do, what we really mean to the system, how fucking valuable we are to citizens, because we are the ones who protect our rights. It's not the government. It's not the prosecutor and the cops or the government. It's that simple. The document, the Constitution was written, and I give this speech all the time because it's fucking true, was written to tell the government, hey, you can't pass these laws that violate our rights as citizens. And like people lost sight of that. And then, to see the coverage and to see how Alan and David and Bob and Liza were all just loved in a way that was profound, because people were seeing how hard you have to fight. You need a Turtleboy. You need a movement started in order to defeat the government, because that's the kind of power they have, man. And it's like everything that you did. And, I've been very clear about this. I don't know about the Karen Reed case, but for Aidan Kearney at all.
Really? Wow.
That's it. I mean, that's facts. That's facts. I mean, that there's no disputing that. This case isn't in the public perspective. It's not in the, it doesn't become what it is and what it became without you covering the story. And that's a fact. There is no debating that. No one can debate that, man. And, and I keep trying to tell people, how fucking hard it is to start a movement.
I don't know how I started. I didn't know how. This is crazy. It still blows my mind when I walked through.
Unbelievable.
I didn't know about it till Aidan Kearney wrote about it either. That was the thing. It had been going on for 15 months, and I just didn't know about it. Like, it was right in my backyard, and here's the story of the century sitting right beyond. But nobody in the media is covering it. It was doing it justice. I'm like, wow. And so and to this day, they still kind of haven't. Like, the Boston Globe should have had like a team dedicated to the story. God knows they have the resources. We've all seen Spotlight. Like, you can, you have way more resources than I do. You guys could have done wonders with this story, but they just didn't. Spotlight, they're going down, they're pulling paperwork, they're interviewing victims, talking to them. They're not doing anything like that anymore.
No. Right. I think that you would think that mainstream media would be like, okay, what the public really seems to want is us to investigate again. They want us to be investigative journalists. They want Watergate. They want, figure shit out and investigate and get out there and do stuff. And mainstream media doesn't do that anymore.
It's dead. No. They're all paid.
They tell the story after the fact. All right, we're going to do some investigating. Like, it's all over, and we're going to find out some stuff to fill in. But you would think that they would see, especially in this case, what you were able to motivate people, and like people really, really cared and were invested, and be like, okay, wait a minute, we've got to do a little bit of this, but they're just not. And the charges against you are trying to scare any other non-mainstream media from trying to go out and do anything similar. They're trying to chill the whole freedom of press, and it's so blatant that it seems ridiculous. And you would think that the media would want to cover that aspect of this.
You'd think so.
You'd think it's crazy, man. Like, dude, the way that this shit went down in terms of, because like I sit there and I'll think about you, like, it's like, because I was covering the Delphi thing when you were.
Oh, I know you were,
Aaron. And and I had people coming after me. I had them doing like hit pieces on podcasts and shit about me, because I was much of the mindset, much like you, because there was these two similar filings wherein Karen filed the motion dismiss, which is what turned you on to what the fuck was going on in that case. And then in the Delphi case, it was the Franks memo. And then, you know, and I had people coming after me. I had them doing like hit pieces on podcasts and shit about me, because I was much of the mindset, much like you, because there was these two similar filings wherein Karen filed the motion dismiss, which is what turned you on to what the fuck was going on in that case. which was this 136-page fucking thing that I had never read anything like it. I'm like losing my mind when I'm reading this thing. And I'm an attorney. I'm 20. Like I've read all kinds of pleadings. I had never read anything like this. This thing was an opus, man. And I'm like,
Yeah, with
what
receipts,
is going
like
on?
you were saying, that was
With
attached to the
receipts.
motion that Yannetti filed, that
I'm
there
right.
were receipts
Yeah.
with everything.
I admittedly didn't, I follow. I mean, I know the basics of that case. I wish I had more time. My understanding is that they got him on they basically put the guy in solitary and fucked with his brain, and then he confessed.
Yeah.
I've seen the tapes of his wife like saying, "No, you didn't do this," and he says, "Yes." He sounds like programmed.
Yeah.
Almost.
Well,
to,
I
like,
mean,
yeah,
he was on Haldol. They cracked him. They held him in a prison. They held him in the most secure cell in the most secure prison as a pretrial detainee for 13 months. They separated him from any kind of physical contact in terms of being able to see eye to eye his wife, who was his entire support system, and they fucking cracked him. And it was like, by the time they started giving him the Haldol, he was eating his own feces, smashing his head against his, like this dude had lost his shit. Like, dude, it was unbelievable. It was like prisoner of war shit, like the likes of which you've never seen. And then when you go back and look what they got him on, it's mere presence at the bridge and a statement that he's given voluntarily.
Is he bridge guy?
He's
They
supposedly
claim he's
bridge
bridge
guy.
guy. They
They
say
claim-
he's bridge guy.
Yeah.
Because he was out at the trails that day, and then.
But whether
like,
he's bridge guy or whether bridge guy was the killer, that's
are
Because
two
they start.
different things.
That's the last time the girls start kind of running after. I've seen the video. They start like kind of moving away.
Nah, dude.
I don't follow it as much as you guys. I
I'm
really
gonna
should.
fucking bend your ear on that shit because like your voice is needed over here. on
Yeah.
that side. It really
What
is,
can be
dude.
done? Isn't it too late?
No, I mean the appeals are coming. I mean he's been convicted, but I don't. I'm a defense attorney, man. I don't give up when
right.
if
stuff
dude,
is revealed,
I'm
he's got-
as confident that Richard Allen is innocent as I am that Karen is innocent, factually innocent. That's how confident I am. And like
Really?
this, they had him. There was no evidence, dude. Like there was an unspent casing that they claim that their testing showed that it was a significant match or sufficient match with.
Oh, they were
with
shot.
Rich.
The girls. Were shot?
No.
Oh.
There was no gun used.
They
How were they
found
killed?
an unspent casing that they claimed that the killer used to cock the gun to scare the girls, to control the girls. And then
Oh.
they compared this unspent casing because when they tried to recreate the markings with another unspent casing, they couldn't. So they fired the gun and then tried to claim that the markings matched or had significant what is it? Significant
agreement
with the markings on the unspent casing. So the science was bullshit. There's a ton of stuff, but you bring up a good point because people who aren't lawyers think, well, that's over, right? But no, if there's still investigation going on and facts uncovered, you can always bring a post-conviction petition with newly discovered evidence. So with newly discovered evidence, you've got a whole nother line of attack. It's harder,
Well,
What
they haven't even
obviously made it
filed
harder
yet.
for that guy was that like he was in jail during his trial. Like a big advantage Karen Reed had was that she was able to use the internet. Like they
Right.
could never have done this if she was in jail. Like that's a big obstacle that they had to overcome. And also that it wasn't televised. Like not having cameras in the courtroom or whatever was like how does the world see what's going on? Like
Right.
if there's no cameras in the courtroom.
Yeah, it's cool. That was the whole thing. It was like I'm coming out of that trial because I went to that trial in person. Like me and Andrea went, and lawyer Lee. There were 3 lawyers in there, and
With media passes. You guys had media
no,
passes?
man,
Oh.
no, there was no
Oh,
media pass.
okay.
I ended up getting a seat through Rick Allen's wife. She actually, because my coverage for 2 years, I was advocating. I'm like, this fucking case stinks. There's something wrong with it. And and I'm coming out of that trial where I have this judge in that case that was 1,000 times worse than Gull. If you can
imagine.
I would have. Let
You
me.
mean 1,000 times worse than Bev.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
1,000 times worse than Bev. Like I would have paid to have Bev sit on that case. That's how bad Gull was.
Wow.
If you can imagine a world in which there's a judge worse than Canoni in terms of
Wow.
bias. Like, dude, she didn't allow them to put any defense on, but that's for another day. But
Okay.
like, I want to plant the seed with you because I'm going to be up your ass about getting you into this Richard Allen shit. Because when it starts percolating, because the appeal hasn't even been written, but when that appeal hits, man, I'm gonna throw it at you, and I'm gonna bring you back on, and we're gonna talk about it, because at that point, your interest will be piqued. You're gonna be like, "There's something fucked up about this case." You'll smell it. You'll smell it stinks.
Okay.
You know, like, so, in terms of, so who put you onto that motion to dismiss?
I was going to say, before we go to that, I just have a couple more things. You are a father, right?
I am a father of two, a 10-year-old girl and a 7-year-old boy.
Love it.
Yeah. They're
And-
awesome.
Love it.
And do you said you have 7 siblings. Are you?
I'm the oldest of 7. Yeah. So
So are you guys still close? You do a lot of family stuff?
yeah, you know, when adults, like, you start having your own lives, and
Right.
but we still, you know, we're family. Whenever we just had my sister's wedding 2 weeks ago, dancing, hanging out, you know, making time for each other. It's just the way we were raised. Like most of us have kids and stuff now, and cousins, and it's one big happy family.
And you said that you used to do, I heard you speaking on another channel, I can't remember which now, but that your coverage used to be a lot of pro police, like people who, you know, committed offenses
Conservatives.
against police.
Yeah, like most of it was a right-wing audience mostly, and a back the blue audience. Liberals hated me, you know, and so, but now one thing about the Kearney case is it's definitely like brought me a new audience of people who didn't like me before, and we're like, oh, maybe this guy's not so bad after all. Like, I don't have to agree with him on everything, but this is a very decent thing that he's doing.
Yeah.
Right. Calling balls and strikes.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, that's the real facts of it. So did you, when you were envisioning this whole, all right, I could leave teaching as good as I am at it, as much, I mean, because it's no easy task, 11th grade history. You're not, you know, like that's some in-depth content that you have to know, cover, and be able to teach. So it's no easy job. But when you were thinking about this shift, like, all right, fine, you know what, I'll walk away and I'll invest all my time and energy into Turtleboy. Did you ever, what did you envision it doing, and could you have ever pictured yourself where you are now?
No, I never. I'm complete. I'd be lying if I said I ever envisioned anything like the Kearney movement. You know, when I first started doing this, I just kind of ended up here, to be honest with you. Like, I just I'm just an old school journalist. Like, I see a story and I want to write about it, period. I want to talk about it. I want to get the truth out there. It's just my nature. Like, I love doing it, and whatever happens. Like, you know, I was content with the platform that I had, like 25,000 followers on Twitter and YouTube before Kearney. Now it's like 150. That was not, I mean, I'll take it, you know, but that's not why I did it. I just did it because I love doing it. This is the story of the century. Like, and I loved writing. I loved writing about it every day. I loved the fact that every day there was a new angle that I could look at and talk about and get out there. And there was new things that hadn't been discovered that you can just go and discover on your own by just going to Canton, you know, and knocking on doors and doing public records requests. Now you pick up charges along the way. I mean, that's the problem, is I got too close and they didn't like that after a while. And I wear 3 hats. I always say that I'm a journalist, I'm an activist, and I'm a satirist. I'm a satirist when I do my show and I'm cracking jokes and being Mr. Funny Guy. I'm a journalist when I'm, you know, doing public records requests and writing about it. And I'm an activist when I'm doing the rolling rally, or I'm, you know, protesting outside of Chris Albert's pizza shop or something like that. Like, that's my activist hat. And like, I didn't do any of the things that I'm charged with doing. Like, I didn't do any of this to like intimidate witnesses or try to get anyone to change their testimony. I knew they weren't going to change their testimony.
Right.
They're going to say they're in self-preservation mode.
Right.
But like, I'm really upset about John O'Keefe's death. Like, I'm really mad about it. And what else can you do as an American? What other outlet do you have to vent your frustration than to go on a public sidewalk and say, I'm really mad about this, and here's my sign, and I'm really mad. This guy sucks. I don't like this guy. I think he's bad, And I think the government should do something to stop him, you know, and instead the government's like, actually, we're going to stop you.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
and was the case you told us about, the one with the heroin and the judge trying to change and get the police report changed? Was that the first corruption type case that you followed?
You know, I did some smaller scale corruption ones just around Worcester, like a lot of like, one of my favorites was like looking into shady nonprofits, because nonprofits are, if you can get in the nonprofit scam business, you got it made.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of grants that go out, and these grifters, they all start these nonprofits and they say the right buzzwords. And so there was like one nonprofit in Worcester that was just this cash cow called Mosaic Cultural Complex. And I started like just going down to City Hall and going to the treasurer's office and seeing how many checks went out to Mosaic Cultural Complex this week, and then getting their timesheets and saying, where are they going? And then I would go on Facebook and I would see that the people who are supposedly working during these time hours and collecting money from the city, making $35 an hour, they're on Facebook dicking around doing nothing. And I'm able to prove that this whole thing is fraudulent. So like, I love shit like that. I love to like find the story behind the story.
See, that's an actual grifter.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There was a lot of.
That's a real fucking grift.
I've been slaying grifters left and right for years, and so it's just ironic that they call me that now. It's like, to me, a grifter is somebody that is like scamming people in some way. Like with me, it's like, if you don't want to give money to me, you don't have to. But if you feel I'm doing a public service and you want to tip me, that's basically what it is, and pay me for my. You know, my website's free. You don't have to pay anything to read it. It's not like the Boston Globe. But if you want to, you know, hook a brother up, I'm not going to say no. So that's not grifting. That's like people paying for something that they enjoy.
Right.
That's America.
That's like fucking like making a living by working really hard and writing articles and doing research and going out and talking to fucking people and then writing about it and informing people, and they enjoy reading that. And then it's the equivalent of you saying, hey, you want a subscription to my fucking shit?
Yeah.
Hey, well, I mean, dude, it's the same thing that we get over here all the time. I'm like, look, if you don't consider like 48 years of collective knowledge of the law game that Allison and I have in terms of learning something by watching our channel, and you want to call that a grift, then you're a fucking idiot. I don't know what else to tell you. You know, it's like, it's that simple, you know, because it's like, we spent a lot of money to go to law school. You know what I mean? Allie and I spent a fuck ton of money to go to law school, and we practiced for a really long time, tried cases for a really long time. And we've got some actual knowledge about what's going on in these cases that we cover. We think that has value. And like you said, you know, if people are kind enough to say, hey, you know what? I see the value in what you do. We appreciate the time that you spend. Here's a little tip.
Yeah.
I'm all about it.
Keyword is value. That's what people value. And I look at somebody like Jessica Machado, for instance. You know, Jessica worked at the Fall River Reporter, you know, a smaller website, and, you know, she was writing for them and doing her thing. And then during the Karen Reed case, she kind of made a name for herself by doing such a good job reporting what no one else is reporting, particularly juror reactions, which is what people really want. Like that's because that's the one thing you can't see is the juror reactions. And so people would follow her because she would give such in-depth, you know, not like analysis of the jurors. And she would cover my case, which a lot of people tangentially also had an interest in and no one else was really doing. So like, now Jessica's got like 40,000 followers, and guess what? She earned that. That's America. And now she's going to start doing her own thing, and she's going to be commercially successful on her own. And that's America, is like going out and becoming your own boss.
That's it, dude. That's it. Yeah. It's like, you know, we hung a shingle right out of law school, which was terrifying. But like I said, you know, when I decided I was over it, and I had always wanted to try to write. And when the pandemic hit, like Allie and I took the kids and the dog, and we went out to Arizona and just rented like Airbnbs and swam for 3 months with the kids. But I started writing my book that I had been wanting to write, but I had always been contemplating, you know, doing a podcast because my old man was Gacy's lawyer back in 1980.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And he had given me all his taped interviews with Gacy. And I'm like, you know what? You know, and I had tried to sell him to like license the sound to Berlinger, which, you know, I like negotiated that for 9 months, and he wasn't offering what I thought the value of them was, because they'd never been heard. They were like one of a kind. They were a defense attorney preparing one of the worst fucking human beings to ever walk the face of the planet, preparing for his his death penalty trial, which was an insanity defense case. They were fascinating. And I'm like, no one's ever heard this shit. No one's ever heard that perspective. And Gacy had waived privilege because that's how he was expecting my dad and Sam to get paid for the trial. So like I held on to those things forever, for forever, dude, 30 years before I decided to finally use them. And that's when I created the podcast, man. And it was, for me, I was leaving practicing law, which was, a steady income, and I decided to take a shot doing this thing, much like you did when you decided to leave teaching. And fortunately, my wife is the hero of my story because she stayed back and kept practicing. So that we had income.
You don't practice at all? You don't have clients? Oh,
so Allie does.
Oh,
right. I practice. If we had a big trial, I'd make him come in and
I'd come back. I mean, I keep my license active, but in terms of the day to day, dude, you know how busy this shit is.
Oh,
this is work, bro.
People like Emily Baker doesn't practice, does she? I mean,
no, I think most of the law tubers, other than
Peter Tragos,
Peter.
I think Peter does some civil stuff, right? But I assume he's got people that, because I'm like, how does that guy? Does he never sleep? Like that guy's got a recap of the Karen Reed trial at like 6 o'clock every day. Like, what the fuck?
Somebody's doing the work for him.
I think otherwise, most of them are retired and just like, sharing their knowledge and covering the cases. But
like Runkle says I was on with him the other day. Like he's like, I'm thinking about doing this full time now. I'd like, it's a gamble though. If I'm not, I don't know if I'm ready to make the leap yet, but I'm thinking about it,
Well, because I had the traditional podcast, which is just ears only. And then I started the channel like 18, 19 months ago in order to promote the podcast, So, and I'm like, I'll cover some cases that I've had an interest in. And then, I started kind of dipping my toes in the trial coverage and streaming the trials, which I like a lot. And then it was kind of simultaneous because I was just starting the channel when you we're starting your coverage on Karen.
Oh, really? That's how new your channel is?
Yeah, dude. And then
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's been around since 21.
Didn't I meet you on MLS or where the hell did we meet for the first time?
I don't know, man. I came onto your show early, like a year. But
it was with like Broken Baker, before. Right? Or like it was with the MLS guy, the guy from Michigan. I'll make it more simple. I think that's how we met.
I think you're right. And then I came over to your show. And you had me on like early on in the coverage.
Yes.
Because that was the first time I told you that you're fucking Hunter S. Thompson. And you were like, I don't know if you I didn't know if you knew what I meant by it, but I'm like,
who he was. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that dude, he was a rabble rouser, man. He just got, he got out, got into shit, uncovered things, got people worked up based on knowledge and giving them the knowledge that something was wrong and that there's something broken about what's happening out there. And dude, like to go back, I mean, independent investigative journalists are it. Like the mainstream media is dead, bro. Like that shit, like they've all mailed it in. They don't do the job anymore. They're all, like 3 dudes own like all the media companies in the world. So it's like you're not getting any kind of unbiased shit. You're getting people that have agendas from up on high, and they're not doing the digging like they used to. So we're it. You're it. We're it.
And that's the thing. It's like my hearing today got coverage all over YouTube with Melanie Little and lots of channels were. I haven't had a chance to catch up on all of it because but like I would go on YouTube and it's great. Everyone's covering it.
Yep.
But then like in the courtroom, I think there was a Mass Live reporter and maybe a Channel 7 reporter. I think there was a pool camera. We'll have the tape up, the video of it up later. But it's like, dude. I don't know if you guys heard the First Amendment's like on trial in this courtroom right now. It's kind of an important topic. I know it's not Karen Reed, but it's like,
not as flashy.
It's like, like this affects the media too. Like this could be you, brother. Like this, if you make the wrong person uncomfortable by putting a microphone in their face, like reporters used to do, then this could be you, man. Like how would you like that?
Easily.
And I was going to say that your case should be like, all right, Karen's case involves a police officer being killed on a police officer's front lawn, cops covering up for cops, the worst of the worst when you're dealing with the thin blue line. But your case shows how you don't need all of that for like police and prosecutorial abuse and misconduct to completely, destroy someone's life. This could happen to actually anyone. It
Yes,
doesn't
it
have to be as extreme as these are cops covering for other cops, or cops thinking that some cops thinking that they need to do whatever it takes to get someone who killed a cop. You're just out there reporting and angering people.
They're
and
trying to
annoying
silence
people.
you.
Oh,
Literally, this was done to silence you, to silence the press, man. There's no other bones. But I've said it once, and I'll say it again. Karen's case was huge in terms of importance. Your case is more important. It just is.
It affects all of us. It affects all of us.
It does. And people need to understand that. And I'm going to be screaming that from the rooftops. I've been screaming it. We've been covering your shit ever since I started getting the Zoom links. I'm always hitting you up, or Will or Melanie. I'm like, yo, I need the Zoom link, because it's like
the same link.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the same fucking link. Like
know.
last time you were in, I like accidentally spoke in court.
Oh,
Like, I didn't realize.
oh, that's
Zoom.
right. That's
I
right.
didn't realize that when I hit unmute on my mic here, trying to talk to our audience, that I was also unmuting it on Zoom. So, and I'm like, I think I'm muted, whatever, man. But yeah, dude, it's just such an important case that really deserves and is going to get a lot of attention. It just will.
Did you have asses in the courtroom today? That's
yeah. Oh, it was filled. Like there was a line out the door. Like a lot of
good.
people couldn't get in. So, and it was the main courtroom too, the biggest courtroom they have. So it was good. And Bradel and Betterow were excellent today. They came out firing. They were naming names like Michael Proctor, Brian Tully, Kate Peter. They're going down the line and they're just talking about like this. Like we've put this whole thing together about how like we're getting all this discovery, figuring out who emailed who to start this whole thing. Like, how did this evolve into witness intimidation? Like, we're getting all Morrissey's emails. We got a stack of stuff today that I can't talk about yet, because it's under a protective order. That was one of the big things that we were fighting for today. It's like, no more impoundment. Everything they give us is under impoundment, and there's just no reason for it. Like, impoundment is for when somebody's social security number or their phone number or something's out there, or something minors, stuff with minors.
Right.
It's like, this is just embarrassing for the government. Like, that's all this stuff is just like, it makes you guys seem corrupt, and it makes you guys, and you don't want the public knowing about it. That's not a sufficient reason to impound something. Like,
and they have to stop protecting the government when the government is actually
the bad
corrupt.
actor.
Right. Like, we just can't have that anymore. And that is very true. The courts have always, when there's an allegation, Bob and I, and a lot of our viewers have heard this story, but like Bob and I, had a case where after we put a witness on the stand, and after they got up, a cop was on the stand, and after they got up, I called a witness, and the judge could tell, and he says, "Are you going to try and tell me that this cop that I've known for 20 years just lied on the stand? Is that what you're trying to do?" And he's screaming at
us.
Is that what you're trying? I'm like, yes, it is. It's exactly what I intend to do. And he starts again screaming that if I don't prove to him that this cop lied and that what I'm about to say is true, he is reporting me to the bars, to the disciplinary commission. And then, like, in a sort of, oh, and if she does prove it, by the way, I'm going to report you, prosecutor, and the actual elected official, right? So then we prove it, and nothing ever happened to the prosecutor and this and that. But it was like a literally screaming at me, threatening me in a court of law, because it's just so hard for the system to admit that there's all this corruption, despite how flagrant it has been in the last several years with the social media and people pulling out their phones. But that's the kind of thing that they'll be like, oh no, if you're going to say that, we're going to put it under seal. That's got to be under seal, because you just said something horrible about a police officer or prosecutor. But when they want to say something horrible about the defendant, that's just a reasonable belief, probable cause, just a reasonable belief that this might have happened, No one wants to shut them up. They go out on their own little press tours. They put it all in front of the public. But if you are gonna have the gumption or to say something negative about the police or the prosecuting authority, that we've got to shut down, and the public shouldn't hear it, no matter how true it might be, and that's got to change. So I really think the judge seemed open to hearing the motion,
Oh yeah.
and then
He
he
was
jumped on the prosecutor like, well, before you worry about responding to that motion, where the hell is their discovery?
Mm-hmm.
So the discovery that you just got, I mean, is it brand new? Did they just get it?
Some of this stuff we've gotten emails, and it says on the emails that this was forwarded to Cosgrove in December. Like, you got in December some of these emails and like these communications. It's like, are you kidding me? And you're looking over this stuff and you're like, oh my God, like some of this stuff could have been used in our motion to dismiss. Like there's major stuff in here. And even in our motion to dismiss, a lot of the things that we cite from other discovery, we have to redact because it's like impounded. Like we have a text message from Michael Proctor that is blacked out in our motion to dismiss. That is more outrageous than anything you heard in the Karen Reed case. Like it's outrageous. And you're like, the public just can't know about it because Michael Proctor's fucking protected. For some reason, the public can't find out what Michael Proctor is saying in text messages to group chats with Michael Morrissey, Yuri Buchanan, Brian Tully, John Fanning. You see all their names in a little bubble of the iChat.
These are in the course of their duties text about their job, charges, officials, not like chats to their friends. This is official police prosecutorial
about me. Like they're talking about me. Like, what are we gonna, like, this guy is a problem. Like, this is what they're talking about. Like, and that the public has a right to know the nexus of my charges, like how they came from. Like we've seen where they come from. We have the messages. We just can't show you guys because Michael Proctor's feelings are important. Right. I guess I don't know what are we.
I think they're trying to preserve the integrity of the police and the prosecutors.
They have no integrity.
Right. That's
if you didn't watch the Karen Reed trial, I think that's the one takeaway. It's like they're
void.
Integrity.
They're void of integrity. It does not exist with them. That ship has sailed. But it's like that thing that you were talking about earlier, man. It's like we all grew up, the cops are the good guys. The cops are like, you're in trouble. That's who you go talk to. And it's taken years. And really, in my estimation, it's been the advent of the cell phone where people were able to start videotaping the shit that cops would pull out there. And that's I love good cops. I love good cops. It is a thankless, dangerous job that they are out there doing. And a good cop is something that we absolutely need in this country. On the flip side of that fucking gun and that badge give those motherfuckers more power than anybody else on the planet in terms of being able to change a human being's life in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye. It's that quick. Yep. And you're a perfect example of what can happen if you start stepping on the wrong toes and they're trying to shut you down. And it's like, I always I see you post shit and I'm like, dude, like quit posting shit. Like quit fucking, I know you want to post shit, but like you're out at the beach in fucking Albert. I'm like, dude, they're coming. Like they lost on Karen. You are public enemy number one to them now. They're fucking coming for you. Don't make their shit any easier, man. And
it has already changed your behavior, right? You have felt that you've got to tone it down. You've got to
100. I stopped protesting. I mean, I stopped going to Chris Albert's pizza shop. I stopped going to Board of Selectmen meetings. Like I stopped. Like
all right, well,
you guys won.
This little scan code down here is to your fundraiser.
Oh, thank you.
Because you're gonna need a defense team, and they're not cheap. And
hey, Bradle and Betterow aren't cheap. So, let's help our boy out. Send him some cash to help him with some defense legal fees and Mark was spectacular today. Tim's been the one that's, been doing most of the arguing in there. So it was nice to hear Mark get to stretch his legs out in the courtroom today. He did a great job, which we knew he would. So I'm real confident that you got some good lawyers fighting the fight for you. But my boys got to get them paid, y'all. So make sure you're looking out for them and scan that QR code any little bit helps. Any little bit helps.
Totally.
So, yeah, there's a million things I want to talk to you about in terms of Karen's case. Like I was starting to say, like, I sit around and I think about you sometimes, and I'm like, man, because it's like you have to have just enormous balls to go out and do the shit that you do. I mean,
Ovaries.
if you think it's fucking like, or if you're a woman, you have giant ovaries.
I mean, balls are worthless, really.
Oh, I mean,
No.
like they make semen. They're not worthless.
Yeah, I would say they have value, but okay.
Yeah, they have some value.
That's true. They do like house the
Yeah, I
sperm.
mean, like the limp dick thing, I'm with you on. The balls, I'm not with you on. But as far as kind of making a decision when you're like sitting there and you're like, you know what, I'm about to go out and I'm about to fucking light the shit on fire, and you're kind of laying in bed and you're thinking about it and you're like, man, like, could this bite me in the ass? And this is early on when you decide to start getting out in the streets. You got your bullhorn, man. Like there's nothing I love more than watching you on that bullhorn, man.
Yeah, I never once thought I'm gonna get arrested for this. Like, I'm
my
like,
God,
this is like I've seen a million people do it before. I've turned on the TV. I've seen BLM blockading highways, and I'm like, I've seen people outside of Derek Chauvin's house demanding he be arrested, or outside of Scott Peterson's house in that Netflix documentary, telling him, come outside and tell the truth, Scott, because they thought he was being dishonest. That's
right.
what people used to do. Or being outside Brian Laundrie's house and say, where's Gabby Petito? Come out and tell us where Gabby Petito is.
Right.
I've seen it a million times before. That's why I felt so comfortable doing it, is because I've seen it before. And like, this is what you're allowed to do. And I'm like looking at it, like I'm like looking at Jennifer Cabe, like everyone's thinking what I'm thinking, right? Like, right. What the fuck? She did, like, they're in on, they covered this thing up, right? And so I'm saying what so many people are thinking, and that's why people were willing to show up and be with me for this. It's because we're all thinking it. And
right.
It's like,
well, and you're asking the hard question, and it's like, and that's what people just don't get. If you think it's easy what Aidan does, go out and try it. I challenge you. Any of you, it's easy to sit behind a keyboard and talk shit. It's a whole different thing to get your big boy pants pulled up, fucking go out there with a bullhorn and go to work. It's a whole different beast. Mm-hmm. And I challenge anybody who's like, go out there and try it. Try to start a movement. Just go ahead.
Yeah, give it a shot.
You don't think there's value in what Aidan did out there? Then I suggest you go out yourself and try it. And then you'll know what's up, because I'm telling you, what you were able to accomplish on this thing was unbelievable, man. Like you started an incredible movement that was important in so many different ways. It took on a life that was so much bigger than just Karen's case. It had so many tentacles, and it continues with your legal fight now, man. It's like it turned into this thing that is like you can't write fiction that's crazier than the shit that's gone on in this case. And with you in your case, I mean, there is, like, you can't write this shit. Like, no. Real life always is going to beat out fiction, because there's nothing crazier than it. And you get a huge tip of the cap from me in terms of your bravery, and whether or not it was you, like, just like, hey man, like, I'm just going out there because it's our right to do it, and I'm going to ask the hard questions. But getting up and doing it, dude, don't sell yourself short, bro. Because there's not a lot of people out there that do it, man. And it's a thing, man. It really is.
And people are lazy these days. Like, I'm like, do you think we could get a bunch of people to go march for this or that? I mean, like, people like to be like, oh, I like what they're doing over there, but not actually go and get involved and do it, be a part of it. And that's what we saw, we saw you be able to accomplish. So, yeah. But so going back to, you're sitting around, you're writing the stories that you're writing, you get this petition, and it comes from a police officer, right? Who kind of turns you on to this, like a fellow officer's like
Brian Johnson. Yeah. He's the first one that sent it to me.
And
then
then
I went down the rabbit hole from there, and you know, one thing after another, and I'm like, wow, this is the story of the century I'm sitting on. And I just wrote about it, you know, and you know, I was getting information, you know, second or third hand that was coming, you know, from the defense team. And a lot of people will say, well, they're just feeding you what they wanted to feed you. No, well, I don't print stuff that can't get backed up. You know,
Right.
like if they're sending me stuff that there's no legitimacy to,
Yeah.
and they've leaked some of my texts with Natalie, who was the conduit between Karen Reed and myself. She kind of went rogue, and a lot of those messages have got out. And you see in some of them, like, I questioned Karen Reed, and I'm like, how do you know that Colin was there? Like, I was skeptical of that early on, and I'm like, how do you know Colin was there? You know, the 227 search confused me at first. When she told me about Lucky Loughran, the existence of the plow driver, I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense, because they put his body out. I thought the body was out there at 12:30 at first, and then she's like, no, they couldn't have been there at 12:30 because the plow driver goes by at 2:30, and that wasn't in the first filings. I found that out much later on. And so now, the story evolved. Like, you learned about it as facts presented themselves. If you go back and read my early writings, like, there's a lot of shit I didn't know.
Right.
And I found out more and more shit as time went on. And like the stuff with Colin, it's like, there is no like, you could never convict or indict Colin Albert for this, right? Because there's just no evidence, because the police didn't investigate him at all. And like, that's the whole point. It's like, why I'm suspicious of him is because of the extent that the police went not to talk to him, and the extent that the friends and family of the McAlberts have gone to say he wasn't there. But if nothing happened inside the house, who gives a shit if he was there? It's weird how much they are trying to be like, no, he had nothing to do with this thing that didn't happen inside the house. Like, what that, like, that to me is the most suspicious part about this. And I found, you know, I spoke with Tom Beatty, who is the father of Erin Beatty, the 16-year-old girl who Colin called at 12:33 that night. And I got a picture of the call. Like, that's data, that's evidence, that's receipts. Like, here, why is he calling this girl at 12:33? He never called her before. The kids Snapchat, they FaceTime, they don't call each other. Like, what was up with that phone call? What was at the exact, like, 3 minutes after Karen Reed leaves, all of a sudden this guy's calling people. What's he calling them for? What's he trying to do? The whole thing was suspicious. So I felt comfortable saying, you know, I'm like, I believe Colin was in the house, and I believe that John was killed inside the house.
Who did you interview? You interviewed this Tom Beatty?
Yeah, I spoke with Tom. And you know, he didn't want his daughter being dragged into it or anything like that. So I was delicate with that. You know, I interviewed Lucky Loughran. You know, I interviewed a lot of people inside Canton who knew people and were like, yeah, like I spoke to one person who lives on Dedham Street, which is the street that Karen Reed drove down to go, one of the streets to get to Fairview Road that night. And she's like, she sent me a picture of Bukkake at her house on her ring camera video when she came to question her. And I'm like, what the hell does Bukkake want from you? And she's like, they were following up on this theory that Karen Reed went back to the scene of the crime that morning. And so they wanted, like they are obsessed with like 5:15 to 5:30 that like Karen went back there to like make sure he's dead or finish him off or something. And she's like, the surveillance video, like, yeah, there's no, Karen doesn't drive by. So like this whole they kept following these. So they did look into ways to like get Karen Reed if they could, and nothing was there. There was just nothing there. And she's the only person that they looked into. And, you know, they also didn't look into her in a lot of ways. Like if Karen Reed really did this, right, it would be so easy to get her. Like there's cameras everywhere, man. That drive from 34 Fairview back to One Meadows Ave is like 3 miles long almost. You pass like 100 ring cameras, right? And all of them are going to get Karen Reed's taillight perfectly. If it's broken, then she's done. Before she hits John's car at 507, done. You got her. And they don't ask for a single camera. I started knocking on doors in Canton of every single person who had a ring camera on that route. And I said to the state police, ever come and ask for your ring camera footage? And they're all like, no, I would have given it if I had it, but they didn't. There is so
And by the time
many
you're
ways.
there, they don't have that old
Yes.
saved anymore.
They exactly. It's long gone. So it's not what they did do to frame Karen Reed. It's what they didn't do.
Right.
You know, to make sure that like she is the only, and they thought that they had enough, but clearly it wasn't. You know, at the end of the day, her being acquitted it shouldn't have. We shouldn't have had to do all this.
Right.
But it was a very satisfying thing, obviously, when it ended.
So your charges, they all stem from are there charges that start with the rolling rally?
Yeah, I mean, so that's it's kind of like a whole collection of shit that I did. I did a video on it. It's on, I think it's pinned to my Twitter and it's on YouTube as well. It's like an hour long, kind of explaining what I'm being charged with in the documents and then what it actually said. 90% of it is just stuff I said on my YouTube show. And they take out of context clips, things that I've said, and they take like a sentence here, combine it with the sentence here, blend it together. It makes it sound more devious than it actually is, completely takes the context out of it. And we know now, and what we're going to see, like there's a lot of communications with Kate Peter, who's obsessed with me, and the DA's office. And this is what she's dedicated her whole life to, is just taking little out of context clips that I said, putting them together and trying to make me sound more devious than I actually am. And she found a receptive ear with the district attorney's office. And that's basically the nexus of my charges. And
well, plus then they wanted to shut you the fuck up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
well, we have to do something about this.
Receptive ear when,
wait till you guys see these texts. Like when you see like Jennifer McCabe, like they were demanding things like this didn't happen on its own. This was a case of the squeaky wheel against the grease.
Yep.
And, you know, eventually, like when these people are demanding that he needs to be arrested, you need to do something about him. And they were all told, go and get a harassment prevention order against them. Go down to the courthouse and do that. And so Jen McCabe and Chris Albert both applied for HBOs against me, and they were both denied on First Amendment grounds because I had a right to do what I was doing. And they're like, what are you supposed to do? We got to figure something out. And then they found this statute, the witness intimidation statute, and they're like, holy shit, this is so broad. We can interpret this however the hell we want to. And we're just going to, there's a thing about emotional harm in here. If you cause emotional harm to a witness, oh yeah, well, that's, what the fuck is that? It's whatever we want it to be. Right. So you just get in front of the grand jury and you tell them that Turtleboy made me sad, which is all they all do. And then we ask you, okay, why do you think he made you sad? Why do you think he's doing these things? Oh, it's because I'm a witness in the Karen Reed case and he wants me to change my testimony. It was like a script that they all read, except for Colin.
It's that he thinks that I committed a crime that I am framing someone else for that crime. I mean, the statute's designed to prevent you from doing things that make them not want to testify. If the way that they've applied it here, it's like you could have been saying to them, hey, I know about this other crime you committed a year ago. You better come clean with it. And it has nothing to do with Karen Reed, And they could apply it the exact same way that they have applied it to you here, because you weren't trying to say, you guys need to be afraid to go and testify. You're saying you guys need to be busted for this crime you committed and stop trying to frame somebody else for it. So it's odd to me. There's some charges you guys were able to get dismissed on legal grounds alone. We got rid of I wouldn't even say legal grounds. It's weird. His ruling in this, it was like so for instance, Proctor and Buchanan's witness intimidation charges were dropped, and he doesn't really specify what the difference is between their charges and the ones against the McAlberts. The only thing we could think of, like, this is just embarrassing to say that a cop is scared. I mean, that's absurd. It looks ridiculous. So like they dropped the 2 cop ones. They dropped these conspiracy charges. I had 3 counts of conspiracy because on September 25th, 2023, I get alerted that Jennifer McCabe's car is parked outside the Proctor house. To me, this is big news because a month prior in his hostage video, Morrissey said that there is no personal relationship between Michael Proctor and any of the witnesses. And here's Jennifer McCabe's car
parked outside the Proctor house at dinner time. So what up with that? And so I'm like, well, I want to make sure it's actually Jennifer McCabe's car. It looks a lot like her Jeep, but we need to make sure. So I make a post. I go, can anyone run a license plate for me? I've been doing this for years to shame people who park in handicap spots. This is another segment I've done. And so I'm like, this is routine for me. Tow truck drivers, PIs, cops, dispatchers, they can all just run a license plate for you. It's no big deal. Or you can just pay $10 a month to do it on some website. So I'm like, I need someone to run a license plate for me. And I got like 10 volunteers and I give them the license plate and they all come back with the same thing. Jennifer McCabe, it's registered too. So to me, I was just verifying, like making sure it's her car. Right. And then I write about it. And I'm like, Jennifer McCabe is parked outside the Proctor's house for a social visit. Busted. Got him. Morrissey's a liar. And they indicted me and the dispatcher who ran her license plate, named Janelle, for conspiracy to commit witness intimidation. And the judge ended up throwing those 3 out. So those are gone. And the picketing charge, I had 5 misdemeanor picketing charges as well. I didn't know picketing was a crime in Massachusetts. Like you can't, I'm like, I'm
heard of
on the body cam video when I'm arrested and Brian Tully tells me in my garage, I'm like, so what am I charged with? And he's like, 5 counts of picketing. I'm like, picketing?
Wait, but I don't understand
like
because the Constitution grants you the right to assemble.
Yeah.
So how is picketing a crime in Massachusetts? I just don't understand it.
Yeah, like so if we had no signs, it wouldn't be. What's picketing mean? What does that even mean? So unions are all illegal? Like that's what unions do. They make
big inflatable rats.
Right? Like what? So like I'm like, okay. So I got 5 misdemeanor counts of that, and the one against Proctor was dropped. They said because he wasn't home when I picketed his house. The rolling rally charges, those are the picketing ones. So like the rolling rally, I picked up all the picketing charges.
Was it for picketing or so it wasn't
both
witness intimidation?
So the rolling rally was both felony witness intimidation and picketing.
Okay.
And so that was a big day, which I announced ahead of time I was doing, and they just let happen. Right? Nobody stopped me. Nobody called the cops. It was a peaceful day. We went to each house for like 5 minutes. I did a spiel outside my megaphone. I'm like, okay, so we're outside the home of Jennifer McCabe, and she Googled this at 2 a.m, and then she deleted her phone calls, and she helped cover up a murder, and she's a bad person, and we don't like her. On to the next house. Like, that's what I did. I didn't say, come outside and show your faces.
It has nothing to do with whether she should testify or shouldn't testify.
No.
And that's what the statute is designed to do. That's why I keep saying you could have been talking about a completely different crime, and they could then charge you with witness intimidation. Like that analogy should scare the hell out of the judge.
But the problem is that they are the ones who get to decide your intent. Like at the grand jury, they're all asked, why do you think he was doing this? I think he was doing this to try to prevent me from testifying in the Karen Reed case. It's like, okay, cool. Then you satisfy that's probable cause. Cause it's like, whoa. You get to define my intent. You're putting words in my mouth. That's not what I'm saying. Like, I want like this idea. Like, imagine a world in which Jennifer McCabe doesn't testify. Where's what content do I have? Like, I got months worth of content from Jennifer McCabe's testimony. That was great for business. I wanted her to testify.
100%.
A trial was awesome.
All of them. We wanted all of them to testify.
I became like famous because of the trial. Of course I want a trial to happen. Like that's 100%. Absurd. That makes no sense why I wouldn't want a trial to happen.
It's totally illogical. Yeah. I mean, that statute exists for, it's like mob shit. It's like, it's like where they're like actively trying to stop people under threat of harm or worse from fucking testifying against one of the fucking big bosses, or it's all that mob shit. That's where that stuff's born out of. Those statutes where people are truly afraid for their lives. It's not for a guy who's out there asking tough questions, asking questions that people don't want to be asked.
And
that's not what it's about. It's
embarrassing me and making me look bad.
It's usually like a supplemental charge too. Like somebody gets charged with murder and witness intimidation, or something like that's what Farwell was originally charged with Sandra Birchmore. He's like he's trying to prevent her from spilling the beans about the statutory rape. And so they charged him with that and murder. Like I've never heard of somebody that just gets witness intimidation and nothing else except again, I understand the need for statutes to protect witnesses. We can't have lawlessness. Like people, they shouldn't have gangsters and thugs telling people like, if you don't testify the way I want you to, then we are gonna break your kneecaps or something like that. Like we
Or
can't
worse.
have that. But
Right.
like,
It's like Frank Pentangeli in The Godfather, when they fucking Godfather Part 2, when Frank Pentangeli's testifying and they bring his brother in from Italy and he's sitting right next to like one of Michael Corleone's dudes, and it's like he changes his testimony immediately on the stand. He's like, oh, I don't remember anything. I don't remember. That's what the statute's for.
Yes,
not
exactly.
for a guy like you.
Yeah, it's just so obvious, and it's just so obvious. They just didn't like my reporting. They wanted to get Karen Reed. It was politically expedient. They had a dead cop on their hands. It's bad politics for an elected official like Michael Morrissey not to get a conviction on that. You get a dead cop.
It's scary, man. It's scary.
Yeah,
it's like you're in the meantime, you're putting on a brave face, but I could tell you from experience, you're sitting in that fucking shower every day with these charges hanging over your head with 2 kids. And like dude, it's like that is part of the nightmare of this that people don't understand in terms of the process in and of itself is hell on earth, because it's always looming. It's always in your brain. If you have great shit happening, I just signed a fucking movie deal. But I still have these nightmare charges hanging over my head. It's like, it's always there, and that's
especially when you've done time. Like I've been,
dude.
Like when I wasn't so brave that night. You know what I mean? On the day after Christmas, when I'm, when I was arrested October 11th, I didn't think that much of it. I'm on bail. I'm like, whatever, this is stupid. I'm going to beat this, whatever. But then to have your bail revoked and you're like, oh my God, I'm not going home.
Yeah.
Holy fuck. And I'm like,
that was on like a bullshit
assault
or what?
Yeah. That's a different, that was more than just a bullshit assault. That was a setup. Like, so I was, I had been seeing some crazy chick and she invited me. I had stopped talking to her, and then she messages me 2 weeks later and she's like, sends me a picture of a grand jury summons. And I'm like, this is the day I'm indicted, day after I'm indicted. So there is no more grand jury. Right. And she's like, Brian Tully showed up at my house with this. We need to talk about this. I'm like, what? How does Brian Tully know who you are? What the fuck? And then I'm like, I know now through discovery that this is a fake grand jury summons that Brian Tully gave her.
Wow.
And sent it to me to get him over the apartment, get me over there. And so I went over there to talk about that, and also a fake baby that she was pretending to be pregnant.
Yeah.
That's a different story. Right. And so then, I met her in a common area because I didn't want to go in her apartment. And then unbeknownst to me, she was on the phone with Tully and Mello, who were listening in on our conversation in the common area, and they were encouraging her, get him in the apartment. And so she talked me back to go into her apartment at 11. And the second I walked in her apartment, I was going to jail, because now it's my word against hers. And I didn't know that level of evil existed, that like anyone would do something like that.
Scary, man.
Yeah. Like I'm like
giving
her the benefit
of the police and prosecutors.
Right. Like I had no idea that they were this evil, but like I should have seen it coming in hindsight. And I stayed there till like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I had to go home, and she didn't want to let me leave. So she took the abortion pill in front of me, and she's not pregnant. And she's like, now you can't leave. I'm going to be in pain and this and that. I'm like, okay, this is fucking insane. I have to leave. And I start taping it, and I tell her I'm taping it. I picked up a felony wiretapping charge because I started taping it to protect myself. And she,
by the way, is that one dismissed, or it's still pending?
No, we still got it. That's one of the things he brought up today. Like,
well,
we still haven't gotten the discovery.
In Illinois, there's an exception that if you think the person's committing a crime, you can record them. And that would apply to you if you think she is setting you up to falsely accuse you of a crime. So you should see if I'm sure.
Yeah, no, well, in Massachusetts, we've seen this before, where people, domestic violence victims, have taped their abusers, abusing them. They don't tell them, hey, I'm taping it. They end up getting charged with wiretapping. It's happened here many times. They've talked about legislation fixing that, but as of right now, no, there isn't. And so I start taping her, and then she wakes her kids up who are like 2, 3, and 5. And I'm like, I just want to leave. I want to go home. It's Christmas Eve. I want to go home. And she's like, you can't leave me. And then wakes her kids up. She's like, if you leave, I'm going to put my kids in the car. We're going to drive to your house. I'm going to bleed out in your driveway. And I'm like, oh my God. The 5-year-old wakes up. He looked terrorized. It's like 3 a.m. And I'm like, okay, please put the boy back to bed. I'm just going to sit on this couch and wait for her to go to sleep. And so I sat there till 5 a.m.
Wow.
She passes out. I started driving home. I was so tired. I fell asleep behind the wheel of the car on the highway, crashed, and barely made it home alive. And I'm all messed up. Hours later, I get a call from the police. There's a warrant out for my arrest. And I'm like, warrant for what? Assault and battery in Medfield. I'm like, oh my God. She said I hit her. Holy shit. And it's your word, how domestic violence things work. It's like whoever gets to the cops first wins. Whoever makes, and I'm like, does she have a marking on her face? What did she hit herself? No markings, nothing. There's literally nothing. And she didn't even want to report it. Like, we now know that the person who reported this alleged domestic incident to the police was Brian Tully. He called the police on me the next day, and it's like, oh yeah, he hit her. And the charge, I did 60 days in jail. The charges got dropped the day that I got out of jail.
Wow.
And then 3 days later, Karen Reed has a hearing, and I go to it. And who comes to the hearing? She does, as a guest of the O'Keefe family. They brought her with her to this thing in order to force me to leave the courtroom, which I did. I go across the street to the Registry of Deeds where a cop directs me, and then I get charged with violating a restraining order, and I had to go to trial last month over that. And I was found not guilty. I finally got all the video. I actually streamed it this afternoon. And so it's like that whole thing was, it just never ends. It's like, it's been a wild,
like the lawsuit for that is intentional infliction of emotional distress, fucking malicious prosecution, fucking dude,
them colluding with her,
shit, dude. That's crazy. That's insane, dude.
And
that's terrifying.
What do they try to pretend that they were trying to make happen by getting you to go there? Like, obviously they can't deny that they were in communication with her and coaxing her into doing this and telling her to go into the house. But what do they try to pose as what were they trying to accomplish with that?
They were trying to get me charged. They're trying to make her a witness so that they could charge me with witness intimidation, because I'm also charged with that against her.
Oh, so
witness intimidation.
They're claiming they were trying to get you to admit to something.
They were trying to say that she had knew all this information about me, came forward.
Go and intimidate her.
I went there to change your test. You better not be talking to them. And that I hit her in a rage because I'm so mad about her cooperating with Brian Tully. Like that's how the government is framing my charges with her. It's insane.
Wow,
and
man.
And so like when I'm sentenced to 90 days actually first, and I'm like, what? And I'm down in my cell, and Bradle comes down, and he just didn't even know what to say to me. I'm just like, can we do anything? Like, what is that? What is just like, I'm sorry. I'm going to try. We could SJC, but you have to go to jail tonight. And And so that was just like, I wasn't so brave that night. Like that night sucked. That was just like, oh my God. Like I'm not going home. It was my birthday too. And I'm like, I'm not going home to my kids. And I'm like, my mom, my mom ended up dying 6 months later. Like two of my mom's last months on earth, they took away from me.
Jesus,
you know what I mean? She had to drive to Dedham to come see me.
Well, and the stress of that doesn't help in ailing health.
No. And these people are evil. Like they're really bad people.
Dude,
they're bad people.
I mean, this is the kind of shit. That's what I'm saying. This is the kind of shit people need to see and know. This is not just limited to cops covering other cops, the thin blue line. I mean, because they're like, your mind goes like, oh, I can see how corrupt they are when it's like them trying to cover up for someone and them trying to, protect another cop. But this is just them trying to fuck with a guy who's making people angry with his words and trying to expose.
What I'm talking about with the gun and the badge and that power that they have, man. Like it's like a blink of an eye and your life has changed.
Yeah.
And you feel powerless to fight against it. like when this shit goes down and when you beat this shit, I'm going to be up your ass, man. You need to file suit. You have to file suit. I'm telling you, man. It's
Oh yeah.
malicious prosecution side of it, dude.
I have there's a nonprofit in Manhattan called the Good Counsel that has they want this, but basically they can't. You're not going to be able to sue until it's litigated, until like the charges are dropped or you're acquitted or something. Because while the charges are still pending, it's very hard to sue. Like you could, but it's probably going to get dismissed. It's basically their legal analysis of it. So, which is another thing, which is just like so. It would be if the government came to me, like you said earlier, and was like, hey, why don't you just plead guilty to disturbing the peace or whatever, and then we'll drop everything else. Yeah, but does that affect my ability to sue later on?
Right.
Because I pled guilty to something. If you actually plead guilty to something,
right,
that drastically hurts your chance to sue.
It does.
It
absolutely does.
Yeah,
so these are things I have to consider.
Maybe for false prosecution, but for some of the stuff that they did, like that you're going to see in these text messages, obviously you've got a pretty strong legal team, but they could probably
making up a fucking fake grand jury indictment is beyond.
That's fraud.
That's fucking really fraud, dude.
That's entrapment too.
That's bringing Better Row on when he really started he in his Better Row letters that he wrote like last October, he kind of outlined some of this stuff. And like when he saw it, he's like, wait a minute. So they sent her a grand jury summons on December 22nd for a grand jury on December 27th, but you had already been indicted. So what was that even for? Now the woman at Lindsay ended up testifying in front of a grand jury 2 months later, but only in relation to the Christmas Eve incident, which hadn't happened yet when they gave her the grand jury summons. So there was nothing to grand jury about her then at the time. It's like, what would they have talked about on the 20th? There was no grand jury on the 27th. The whole thing was just a ruse to like get my attention because she knew that she couldn't get me over there. This will all come out, but like she tried to use sex to get me. She tried to lure me over there with a threesome, and I said, no, I've resisted. No, not today, Satan. Not happening. Like I'm not going back over there. And then she's like, fine. And then the grand jury summons is what ultimately got my attention.
So they're pulling every single trick
That's stunning, man,
to get you either banned from the courtroom, arrested and unable to go to the courthouse. Brennan putting you on the witness list, Bob and I, and I'm sure almost all the YouTubers were saying this is a obvious ploy to just try and get him to not be able to sit in the courtroom. There was nothing that they could have put you on to testify about in the Karen Reed case.
I wish a motherfucker would. Like I was like, I would love nothing more than to call me, do it, call me. But we both know you're not going to. This is just like you said, a ploy to put me on the sequestration order. And then, so, when we had so what do we do about this? Okay. I can't not cover the trial. That's my income. I'm not going to be able to earn a living. Like, what am I going to do if I'm doing this? So we have to fight this. And we could have gone the First Amendment route that I have to do that, but Bev doesn't give a shit about the First Amendment and she'd probably rule against me. But what's undeniable is your Fifth Amendment right. So I'm like, you guys are the same county's charging me. You can't bring me forward to talk about this stuff. And, and I think that's kind of what Hank wanted in a way, is so that they could be like, see, he's hiding. He's hiding something. It's like, no, bitch, you just weren't
that was clear.
Yeah,
you just tried to get you on the stand to testify to assert your Fifth Amendment right.
Yeah.
When your lawyer just asserted it for you, and
he wanted the dog and pony show. He wanted me to get on the stand and be like, I plead the Fifth for the theatrics of it all. Because he's a defense attorney at the end of the day.
Right.
This is the kind of stuff. This is how he does business.
Right.
And, it's like, but he knew exactly, what he was doing.
Yeah. So, the whole Hank Brennan thing, man, like what have you heard ultimately? And we had Mark on a bunch of times, but like in terms of how they landed on that dude to be the guy, have you heard what led them to Hank Brennan trying this case? Cause it's like, it was obvious they weren't going to have Lally do it again. It was also equally hilarious that he had to sit there like his trained monkey throughout the entire trial, just in that middle chair right next to Hank. Gave him a couple of throwaway witnesses to handle, man. But what have you heard about how they landed on Hank?
Well, I have speculation, so I can't say this as a matter of fact, but I think he seems to have a really close relationship with the Krauskis, Joe Krauski Jr. and Joe Krauski Sr. Sr. was there like I call him Izzy Mandelbaum. He was there
Who
like
are the Krauskis? Because I
so
know less about all
so
this.
Joe Krauski Jr. is like he's on Court TV a lot, and he represented Colin Albert. And when he had to testify in front of the federal grand jury, his father, Joe Krauski Sr., is an attorney who's, both of them are high profile. Like they both been around the block, had a lot of high profile clients, etc. But Joe Krauski Sr. is like good friends with Hank. I think he's like Hank's mentor. He was there every day of the trial, like sitting there, like right in front of his paralegal, like this old guy. You might have seen him before. And it's just interesting that like this, they're like the official lawyers of the McAlberts. Like Krauski represented Colin. Krauski Sr. has represented Jill Daniels when she assaulted me, and a couple other McAlberts, I believe. And so it's just interesting that like Hank Brennan is good friends with the McAlberts, like family attorneys that are on retainer. And I think they're ultimately the ones who were like, telling, let's get Hank in here. Hank's the man. Hank can handle this. Hank's better than anybody you have in your office. Hank will do it. We just got to pay him, and Hank's gotten paid from this very handsomely.
Yes,
and
he has.
Oh my God. Oh, I can't, I'm not going to talk about it. I can't talk about it to impoundment, but hold your horses. Remember that thought.
I will. I'm ready. I'm ready to have that shit get unimpounded. It's like, I mean, obviously, like when it's going to be interesting because when either Bradle or Betterow is going to write up a motion based on the shit that you just got, it'll be interesting to see if they impound the motion itself or
no. It sounds like
they'll just redact it.
Before is that they have to redact any information if it's coming from an impounded document.
Exactly.
Right?
That's exactly what they do with our.
But the judge is going to rule on this impoundment issue in 3 weeks or so.
We're hoping that he just takes care of this within the next couple of weeks. And Bradle really seemed, he wrote me a note when he's like, he's going to want to impound it. Like based on this, in veteran lawyers, that's what veteran lawyers are good at, is reading a judge.
Yeah.
You know when you're winning, you know when to shut up. You know, when you okay, I haven't made all my points yet, but I'm clearly winning. Right. And he's kind of giving me every cue that like I got this. And so his read on the judge today is that he's gonna unimpound these documents because there's just no reason to have them impounded.
So I'm going to ask, and maybe you can't answer, but has your legal team talked about filing something to disqualify the prosecuting attorney's office from prosecuting this?
Well, they have a special prosecutor. So technically the
special prosecutor.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was Mello. They hired this guy, Ken Mello, and he's a fucking joke. And he's, says we actually had a motion today to disqualify him because he's made himself a witness because Lindsay called him 5 times that night while she was at my apartment. And instead of telling her, like, call the police if there's an issue or do this, like, he's like acting like her sugar daddy or some shit. It was weird, like trying to like protect her and talk to her. So he made himself a witness. So, so they have disqualified themselves because
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So like I got special prosecutors too. And I'm like, we're wondering if they're going to try to bring Hank on, like we are prepared if they try to, because that is an obvious conflict because I've said horrible things about Hank Brennan and he can't take this case as a conflict.
So is he from the AG's office, your prosecuting attorney, or is
Cosgrove? He is a retired judge. We call him Triple Dip because he's already collecting 2 pensions and now he's getting paid a third to do my case. We call him Triple Dip Cosgrove. And he's like 1,000 years old. He's extremely slow. And he doesn't have a lot in his fastball, but I heard that Morrissey had asked like 15 to 20 other attorneys to prosecute my case, and they're like, "Fuck no!" Like, no honest, decent attorney wants to take on this case because
that's ridiculous. Interesting though. If they're making them tell him beforehand that whether or not they actually prosecute or whether they decide to. I made this because you could get appointed as the prosecuting attorney and then evaluate and determine whether the charges should stay or go.
Right.
I wonder if they did the same thing in Karen Reed's case, went through multiple lawyers until they found someone who
course.
said, I'll prosecute, despite Brennan standing up there and being like, I'm going to give a fair assessment and evaluate this case and determine whether charges should go forward. They're asking people ahead of time.
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to be like, nah, I'm not interested in even looking at this case, but it's another if they're all saying, I can't bring charges like this in good conscience. Like,
Right. That was
you
the
know,
biggest lie he told, that like, I'm going to evaluate this. And maybe if there's not much there, we don't go forward. Bullshit.
Oh,
He was going forward
bullshit.
the whole, he made
The
up his
whole way.
mind. He's
Yeah.
a whore.
So-
He was hired to do this.
Can
That's
you
it.
tell
Absolutely.
people what is the sentence you are facing for the charges that are still pending?
I mean, the maximum I could get is 105 years.
Jesus.
Each felony witness intimidation count is maximum 10 years.
And they
so-
run
And
consecutive.
yeah, they could run consecutively if a judge chose to do it that way. And so there was 6 of the initial ones left. I picked up another witness intimidation charge with Lindsay on Christmas Eve, so that's 7. And then I got 2 more window intimidation charges with the glarer when we were outside Chris Albert's pizza shop doing a mime routine. We didn't know we were being audio recorded, and we picked up window intimidation for that. So that's 9 times 10 is 90, plus 5 years for the wiretapping felony. So that's 95, plus 4 picketing charges, which are maximum 2.5 years because they're misdemeanors. So that's another 10. So that adds up to 105 years potentially.
Jesus.
I mean, that
It's
is
fucking insane.
Yeah,
man.
It is insane, you know.
horrifying.
And you know,
And so, guys, again, this little, code, this little scanner,
QR code, babe.
QR code.
Call that a QR
Yeah,
code.
I mean, most of our listeners know that the perimenopause fog brain is real. So sometimes I can't pull words. So yeah, QR code to help with your defense
Legal
fund.
fees. Yeah, man.
And I can't imagine, like just knowing, like feeling like your charges are like such complete and total bullshit, but having that much time actually hanging over your head, like
That's what I'm talking about. It's like it's omnipresent. It's always fucking in the back of your head. No, like you can have the most amazing day, like you have amazing days, amazing things happen for you, and then there's this fucking nightmare of these bullshit charges just hanging over your head. It's like that's what I'm trying to explain to people. Like the process in and of itself is part of the punishment. Like for everybody, I mean, thankfully you're out, but still, man, it's like it's never out of your mind. You can't get it out of your mind no matter what you do, no matter what positive shit's going on. That shit's always back there, and it's just part of the torture of the whole thing, man. So
yeah, and it is scary.
All of your charges, has there already been a motion to dismiss heard on every one of the charges?
No, on the McAlbert charges, the 6 initial ones, there has been, and those were denied because indictments very, very rarely get dismissed outright. So to have 6 thrown out, that's pretty good. So those
That's
other ones still
because,
remain.
Yeah,
But
that's not normal to get charges dismissed.
we haven't done since I've been indicted for the window intimidation, we haven't done one for those or for the Lindsay charges. So we intend, those are going to be kind of our next step, is trying to get those ones knocked off. And then we focus on the original McAlbert ones.
Yeah.
That's kind of our plan. And it's scary because, as ridiculous as these charges sound, this is after my interview with Ronnie. I think a lot of us are fucked up from that. We're like, oh my God, this is what they talk about.
Like, because Bob and I, obviously everyone watched and listened to that. We were just like, wow, he is doing such an amazing job of not like freaking out or like responding in a way that makes him shut up, because
I wanted to.
he was saying
we were
such outrageous shit. It was like,
we're like, that's fucking reasonable doubt, dude. Like we're screaming at our computers.
And I was like, I mean, like I would have been having to bite my tongue. I was like, he's like doing an amazing job at just like keeping the conversation going, because it was an immensely important conversation. And I know, like afterwards, it's like not like anyone needs all of the YouTubers like 2 cents, but I was reaching out. I don't remember if I sent you a message directly, but I was like, tell Melanie to tell Turtleboy. I'm like, that guy is what he said about Arca. that has got to be grounds for the judge to reconsider telling the jury exactly what
Yes.
was said. Like,
Yeah.
that's some outrageous bullshit. And I thought he said insurance or you.
Or me that I
But he
was
wasn't
brought
even
up
supposed to
in
know
the
about you, though. Like,
none of them were, you know, it's like, but I was brought up like I'm hiring Arca. Like I can afford those guys. Like what the hell? I don't make that much.
Hey,
But
you
yeah,
do good work with those guys, brother.
yeah. So like, you know, like I could have like being antagonistic with Ronnie wasn't gonna get me anywhere because I'm
Right.
like, I gotta
right,
keep
no,
this
of
guy
course.
talking.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We gotta pick his brain.
Yeah.
And all of this stuff is useful information for trial too, as far as like coming up with a new defense strategy.
And-
Because, like it or not, like those are the guys they heard the testimony for 2.5 months, and this is what they took out of it. And clearly, they don't understand reasonable doubt, and so
Right.
that's why Alan Jackson just hammered reasonable doubt in his closing in the second trial because, like, that was the message, and it got
was it.
through. It got through
Loud
big
and
time.
clear.
The
Loud and
second
clear.
jury was just like so much. I say that they were better because they were, but they were also the defense did a better job reaching them than
Yes.
they did during the first trial.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, they focused on the thing, you know, it's like I always understood, and you know, like I think I was on your show. I can't remember where we were together. I think I was on with you, and I've always understood the concept of wanting to get justice for John in terms of shining the light on the people that never were investigated. The problem was always going to be with that is that they were never investigated.
Right.
You know, that evidence doesn't exist. You were always going to run into the same problem. Had they arrested those fucking people with the investigation that they had done, there's no way they would have gotten convicted because they didn't investigate it. You know, that was always the issue with it. You have all this kind of like smoking gun circumstantial evidence, but there was never the thing that you needed to get those people. So it was always like, all right, man, like the job is to get Karen walking out of that courtroom. Like that's what the job is. Because I was always screaming, I'm like, you got to, like, and Allie and I would have the debate. I'm like, you got to table all those fucking people that we all want to hear from, and we all want to see them on the stand again, and we all want to fully exonerate Karen so we could shut the 12 trolls up that we all hear from all the time, the same fucking weirdos. Like, you know, they're constantly saying the same shit. Just shut them up permanently because she's been fully exonerated because the right people have been arrested and convicted for the crime, right? So but I'm like, you got to put that aside because you got two of the greatest fucking witnesses known to mankind that were a gift from God because they were hired unbeknownst to the defense or the prosecution, and they went and did their own testing, and they came to the conclusion that John O'Keefe was not struck by a motor vehicle. That's game over. That was fucking game over for me. Like on my channel. And when like David and Bob have like promised me they're coming on, they're taking a little break. They're gonna come on and be like, dude, I was screaming it for 1.5 years. I'm like, fucking table that shit. They tried the case exactly how I was hoping that they would try the case. And I mean, it got the right result because it's like all the stuff, the tasty stuff that we want in. I was so afraid that it was going to have that same impact, no matter what the jury would be in terms of who you're picking, because it just it muddies it up. And when you have such a clear, like stone cold winner with the science in this thing, they fucking crushed it in this round, man. Which speaking of crushing shit, your Allen interview was phenomenal. I thought it was gonna be 20 minutes, like you said. You're like, it was fucking great, man.
Yeah, he contacted me earlier in the day. He's like, you know, I said I was going to give you 20 minutes. He's like, but fuck it. I owe, you know, like basically I want to talk about this with you of all people. I want to talk about it on your show. And I'm like, let's go. I'm like, okay, great. I'm like, if anything's off limits, you'll tell me. But I wrote down my questions and I had my questions ready to go for him, and he could answer, and we just had a natural flow back and forth, I think. And
it was great, man.
Yeah, he's the man. Like, and he really said some stuff in that interview, man. That was like new, like people. Whoa, he kind of insinuated without saying it outright that like he's gonna be involved in the civil. It sounds like
he was saying that they're going to be bringing something else,
like a 1983. Is that what they're calling it? I think.
Yeah,
that could be it. But I was getting the sense like there could be something that we're not expecting to follow up on a lot of this. I mean, maybe all of it would be in the form of a 1983. yeah, I mean, he
Well,
definitely
I
he
got the
definitely did
sense that
say
he's
he's got something up
he
his sleeve.
yeah, and he's flat out going after fucking Hank and his bullshit.
Yeah, he doesn't
Like
care.
the
Well, I
shit
hope
that Hank
so,
pulled in that
because
thing was
that deserves somebody to look into. I mean, so does the inverted video. But
Yes.
I mean, it's insane. So I mean, and I don't want to get sidetracked because but it was important for Bob and I to stay very focused on your charges and your case and like shedding all of that to light. And you know, with the there was something I was just going to ask about all of that with the discovery. Um, you know, how much more are you guys waiting for? And you said you just got 5,000 pages or something?
Yeah, I got a whole bunch of stuff I gotta go. I mean, I read it as quickly as I can. I really need to soak this in. Like we've, oh my God, afterwards we have like all of us are. We're gonna have a big powwow about all this shit that's tomorrow that we got in this discovery dump because it's
yeah.
whew.
I mean, man, I mean, it's like that it's heartening to get that kind of shit when it starts to flow in because then you can kind of see the forest through the trees a little bit in terms of like an end game for you. Because like if you're armed with ammunition, whether you can talk about it or not to us, that matters not. What this is about is your case and getting rid of these fucking charges. So like when you're able to dig into that shit and you're like, oh man, we got him. You know, we got him flat out because at some point, Tim and Mark are going to be able to go into their fucking office and apply the arm on them. You know, they're going to say, look, man, like this is what this shit says. You fucking people know what this says. Do you want this to get aired at trial? Because you know what? There's no impounding a trial, you know, because it's the same shit that I'm always talking about with, you know, like, you know, the McCabe's and the, you know, McCabe and Alberts, they're all going to sue Karen. I'm like, you know what? People tend to forget this is the discovery process in civil cases is fucking ungodly. They get to you dig into so much more shit in a civil case than you get in a criminal case. Everything gets dug into. You get depositions, you get production requests, you get so much more in a civil case. It's like you got to be careful who you're suing because, you know, the defense is in terms of if it's going to be a defamation type thing, the defense of that is always the truth. And in terms of Karen being able to try to prove the truth, she gets to discover whatever the fuck she wants to discover, which means she gets to go through all kinds of shit. And they can have those battles and they will have those discovery battles of what she can get her hands on and what she can't in terms of those types of suits, man. And like, I'm not so sure that those things aren't going to fall to the wayside eventually in terms of them coming after Karen. I just, you know, because I get why she's not out. I get why she's like kind of keeping quiet at this point. Because I mean, at this point, it's a financial thing, you know.
Oh, totally, yeah. Just save it, you know. I'm
save
with
it all.
So I can't remember the question I was going to ask you about your charges. I should have written it down. Brain fog.
It happens.
But the what happened with Higgins? Can you talk about what happened with Higgins this weekend?
Not much. I mean, you know, I was with Meredith and we're like, you know, we're in that part of the Cape and he lives in Sandwich and she's just like, oh, let's drive by Higgins' house. And I wasn't driving, she was driving. So I'm like, sure, I'm a passenger or whatever. And I wasn't thinking much of it. And, you know, I've been to his house before. Just curious. I mean, you're allowed to drive on a public street. Like I've never knocked on his door. I've never bothered him, but you're allowed to just drive by a person's house and be like, oh, cool. That's where they live. Okay, cool. Interesting. And just see what's going on. Maybe Jennifer McCabe's parked in his driveway, you know, maybe some crazy's happening. Like what? Yeah. Let's see what's going on, you know? And so we drive by and I make eye contact with him and because he's on the lawn. I'm like, oh my God, Higgins is actually there. Holy shit. And I'm like, did he see me? Oh my God. And then like, he lives in like a cul-de-sac. So you go down the end of the cul-de-sac and you have to go by his house again a second time. And now at this point, he is now at the edge of the driveway with his phone out because he's definitely seen me. And then he's filming it and he's going, get the fuck out of here. And then we're like, and she's like, he's following us. He's like going in the road and filming us, getting the license plate. And either he does this to everyone who drives by his house or he saw me the first time and recognized me, and she goes, "Get the fuck out of here!" And we're like, "Okay, well, that video will never see the light of day because it's my understanding this guy is not talking to the McAlberts anymore, and that video would make him look bad, quite frankly." And then 30 minutes later, Krusty Panties has it on her Twitter account, and I'm like, "Oh shit!"
Wait, who's Krusty Panties? Because I don't.
Kate Peters.
How much time you got? Oh,
yeah.
her name's Kate
He
Peters.
sent her the video.
Well, she posted it, so it got there either
Right.
directly or indirectly. It ended up in her possession, and she's basically a propagandist for the Commonwealth and the McAlberts at this point. And
Well, hopefully they're not trying to use that to add new charges.
Well, we were wondering that today.
Yeah.
Like, is Cosgrove going to bring this up? Is he going to bring up my weekend at the Cape up today? Luckily, he didn't. They also claimed that I'm like down in Mashpee, went to this awesome beach down there, and just walking around, and a lot of people recognize me now, and we take pictures, and it's all good. But maybe somebody sees you in the crowd that doesn't like you. Well, 30 minutes later, once again, Krusty Panties posts on her Twitter account that Aidan is down in Turtleboy's down in Mashpee, and Colin Albert's there, and he's stalking Colin Albert, as if that's how I'm going to spend my 4th of July, is following that loser around, right? And no, it's like, so I was clearly seen by someone down there. People are talking about it. She gets wind of it. Maybe Colin Albert's in Mashpee somewhere. I don't know. It's a big town. It's a popular town in Cape Cod. Maybe he's down in, I didn't see him. If he was there, I didn't see him. Like, so, and I'm certainly not following him around. Like, the McAlberts don't own Cape Cod. They don't own all the nice beaches in New England.
Go to the beach on the 4th, dude.
Yeah, I know, exactly, because I might see a McAlbert, of which there are like 50 of them.
Yeah, I had you at about 50%, like being able to come on tonight. I'm like, yeah, these fucks are gonna file some other fucking thing to try to revoke your bond. I'm like, oh my god,
wouldn't surprise me at this point.
Dude, it was like nothing surprises me about any of it at this point. I mean, it's like the thing is just, I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen it, and I've
now
seen
that the trial's done, Karen Reed's trial, and they're not witnesses. Did they, as to anyone who is not a victim in your case or a witness in your case, did they drop any sort of no contact or restraint? I'm not sure.
Well, here's the witness intimidation statute is very broad, and here's another little thing in the witness intimidation statute. It says whoever willfully punishes, harms, or otherwise retaliates against any such person described in this section. So for their participation in a proceeding. So like effectively it's forever. Like anytime these people are uncomfortable with anything for the rest of their lives, they can say they're retaliating against me for my testimony in the Karen Reed trial. So it sounds like they're going to be protected forever with this statute.
Well, and ironically, after the verdict came down, and then all the weirdos started attacking the jurors, like with the racist shit and fucking digging into Paula's shit, dude. I never saw anything like that. I was furious. Dude. And you like that is what the statute's made for.
Yes.
Because like jurors are protected certainly after they render their verdict. And I'm waiting. Where are the charges against these people? Because that's some real shit. Like that, like talking about like just doxing and harassing the shit out of these people. Like, and I love Paula. I mean, she gives zero fucks. She's just out there. I mean, she's been
smart, witty. Dude, she's a perfect juror.
Well,
man.
I mean, I think didn't she participate in the proceedings? A juror participates in proceedings, and I mean,
she's 100% covered on
100% covered. I think the word jurors even mentioned.
It's in there.
Yeah, jurors in there. Okay.
Yeah,
and the statute.
But here's the problem: it's like you need a complainant, and so like Chris Albert and all them went and complained, and they went from the grand jury. And the thing about it is, you have to have no pride. You have to get up, be able to get on that stand and say, Turtleboy scares me and I'm in fear. A lot of people aren't going to do that. Brian Alberts has no shame. Buchanan's got no shame. They're going to do it. Paula has shame. Like if she wanted to, she could get up there and be like, these people are causing me emotional harm and blah, 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 blah. But she's like not a coward and she's not you know what I mean? So she's not going to do that.
Yeah.
So that's the problem is like, if you want to get, I don't know, this equality or equity, whatever the fuck you would call this, under the law, then you have to be able to fight the same way they do. And we're just not going to do that.
Yeah, dude, like my thing with Paula was not because I was concerned with her actually being in any way intimidated by any of these people, but what I worry about is a chilling effect on other people that are going to be jurors that aren't as feisty as Paula, you know, because you don't want to have this thing where, you know, a jury comes back the right way in terms of a not guilty, which are rare. I mean, in cases, in big high profile cases, man, you just don't get not guilties like this. I mean, we can all remember the last one and we were all fucking horrified. It was what's her fuck, Casey Anthony. You know, I mean, that was like, dude, I was like, oh my God, you know, so like when you get a jury coming the right way down on a case where it should have come down as a not guilty and they do it, you don't want those people getting abused in a way that would cause other people to have serious reservations about that very, very important civic duty, because we all saw how important it is to have good jurors. I mean, like, and they're so hard to choose, you know, it's like you're always, as lawyers, you're going in there, you're like, all right, you know, who would be my perfect juror? And I know that you asked Alan, you know, he's like it because he was talking about the engineers, you know, and that was a very honest answer that he gave, because it's like in any case, and it's always dictated by the facts, right? It's like depending what the facts are. If it's befallen harm to a child, I typically don't want mama bears on there, you know, I don't, because they're going to be the toughest to kind of convince. Like, look, I know that there's this person sitting at the table that's been accused. You know, you have to follow the facts and the law and the evidence. Okay. And you can't go by your emotions because you're a mama bear and you want somebody paying for that kid being harmed. So it's like you kind of always are trying to pick out who your perfect juror would be. So I was kind of hoping that Paul would take one for the team, you know, and just be like, because it's like I posted, I'm like, look, you just reach out to the juror commission, tell them these fuckheads are fucking with you, and let them deal with it. Like, and just keep it, because like everything was out there for public consumption. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It was like
she was gonna have, like, you know, she's like, I have other juror contacts. Let me contact them and try to get them on your show too. And they seemed willing at first, but after they saw that the way that she was treated, they're like,
what I'm saying.
I don't need that in my life right now, because that will happen to you.
100%.
These people, like John DePietro, is going to like report you to ICE if you have an accent, or you know what I mean. It's nasty.
It's so weird.
It's horrible, the shit they're doing, and the racist shit. They mean, Krusty Panties called the juror an Uncle Tom. She doesn't even know what that word means.
Oh, like, dude, it's that just like post was unbelievable.
That like this is who the Commonwealth associates with and gets their information from. You know, like horrible. Like, what year is this where you think that's like okay to say? Dude, and you're not even using it right. Like the Uncle Tom thing would maybe apply if you said that, like, if Karen Reed was accused of killing a black person and he acquitted the white woman, that's a racist term now that at least makes sense. But how the fuck does it make sense when the victim and the perpetrator are both white? That makes no fucking sense.
Made no sense.
What are you talking about?
Made zero sense.
Yeah,
it was super fucking racist.
Yeah, exactly. Like that too.
I mean, she's like fucking Brazilian, man. I'm like, that woman is unhinged. I mean,
oh no, she said that about the jury foreman.
Oh yeah, right.
The black guy.
Yeah, who I loved.
He was awesome too. That guy was amazing. Like, he was so well thought.
Oh,
and
man.
Like, according to Paula, he was like a encyclopedia of knowledge in there. He didn't take any notes.
No notes.
Remembered everything. Yeah. And I loved what he said afterwards, because like they're like, well, she was found not guilty. She wasn't found innocent. If innocent was an option, these people would have voted innocent based on what they've said so far. They've all used the word innocent, right? And they're all wondering, like, so we're gonna get justice for John, or what's going on? Like, he was asking for the FBI to get involved, and I certainly hope they are, man, because this ain't right.
I remember when the foreman was being interviewed and he said, no, I think she's factually innocent. Bob and I are looking at the reporter's face, like shocked and dumb.
Yes.
Like,
a Good Morning America. The guy was like, what?
Yeah. He's like, I'm like, well, why are you looking so surprised? Do you not know anything about this case? Like,
clearly
he was
not. clearly
Like,
not.
clearly not. He was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
dumbfounded.
No,
Do
and I
you
fell
think
in love
any
with
of the
that guy.
discovery is it
I-
possible that any of the new discovery that maybe you don't even know yet, but you guys are anticipating, or the stuff that you have gotten might give your lawyers a way to go back and reattack the first 6 charges you've already sought to dismiss, or your lawyers, are they saying that that ship
For
has
sure.
sailed?
For sure. I mean, the ship has sailed as far as the motion to dismiss, because you only get one crack at that.
Well, but
But
if there's newly discovered evidence that the judge didn't have
yeah,
at the time,
I'd have to ask them. I don't know the answer to that, but I've certainly there's a lot of new stuff I think that just kind of furthers our argument here that this entire thing was just fabricated out of desperation,
Right.
and they're just like we need to do something. We got to find a way to shut them up.
I
Like, what do we
wonder
do?
if there's a basis to make sort of new law and seek like a new remedy. And this was something that I plan
There
to
is.
talk to Bob and David about, just generally from the law perspective here, of like gross police. I mean, we've got stuff like prosecutorial, misconduct, government misconduct for getting charges like dismissed in some avenues, but like if there's so much evidence of their motivation being bad, and that that can impact the collection of evidence and all of that, that they say, you know what, I don't trust this investigation, and this should be, a new way to penalize governmental police and prosecutorial misconduct, even if technically the letter of the statute has been violated. And I wonder if this case your case might give your lawyers a way to, change the law.
Well, you know who can change law is lawmakers. And so we have been, for the last 6 months, talking to a state representative by the name of Nicholas Boldiga, who has drafted legislation that to completely scrap the witness intimidation statute as it currently exists. And he wrote a new proposed law, which is in line with the other 49 states. And, we've looked at all the witness intimidation statutes in every state. It's basically the same thing in every state. It's like you can't threaten to physically harm somebody who's a witness in a case so that they don't testify. It's pretty basic shit. It doesn't have to be a million words. And so this is, but the
Would
problem
this apply
is
retroactively?
Yeah, I mean, if in theory, if the law was thrown out and a new law was enacted, then yeah, I suppose my charges would get dropped. I would assume, right? But the problem is, government works slow, and these things get bogged down in committees, and then politics is involved, and then you have to win over 160 state reps, and then it's got to pass the House and filibuster. I don't know how.
Well, just know
works.
if you guys are pushing for this, that you want the statute to say that it should apply retroactively, because
Right. Yes.
generally
Correct.
speaking, they don't apply retroactively. There's, it can be made retroactive if it's explicitly stated. But I mean,
hope that's a good
substantive
question.
changes
Good
don't,
question. Good question.
don't typically apply retroactively, like without, specific intent. So you got to hope that part of the discussion, even if it's the words aren't in there, but part of the discussion is like, well, we're seeing this being applied in ways that wasn't intended. This is, you've got circumstances of people being, charged with stuff that should never have fallen and been encompassed in this statute, but it's so vague it has been, something so that it gets applied, applied retroactively. But lawyers can change the law when they can file a motion to seek to do something the law doesn't allow for, and say that this is the case that should change the law to allow a remedy that didn't previously exist.
Yes, agreed.
And maybe your shit will be so extreme that you guys find in this discovery that would allow for that. But I mean, you've got the right team for it. Sounds like.
Yeah. I mean,
good
Bradle and
minds.
Mark they're on top of their shit. All right, so let's get into a happy subject. So the Turtleboy movie.
Yes.
All right. All right. Who, if you had your druthers, if you had your
I think he's
choice,
been asked this already.
who's playing your ass?
Bradley Cooper is my favorite. I love Bradley Cooper. I think
he's
great.
he's pretty good.
He'd be
He's pretty
awesome.
good.
But a lot of people like Jeremy Renner to play my role.
Yeah,
We'll
Will's
see,
a big Renner guy for you.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about it, though. Like, it's gonna be from your perspective,
That's right.
and what you went through. So it could have, I mean, it could have a whole fear and loathing Gonzo journalist vibe to it.
Yeah, so they've described it as a combination kind of Spotlight and Aaron Brockovich. Like, you know, just kind of like the Karen, like, because the Aaron Brockovich story is about, you know, like what it's an environmental issue, but it's like how this one person kind of raised hell and made it an issue, you know. So like like the character of Karen Reed would be, you know, not one of the main characters, you know, in the movie, because it would be the story of how I created this phenomenon of Karen Reed, you know, through my journalism and whatever. And that's kind of an accurate retelling of it, because, you know, Karen Reed is she's the subject of the reporting. You know, she isn't the one creating this whole thing you see behind you right now. Like, she's the victim. I perceive her as the victim in this. You know, she is an interchangeable part that you know, she could have been any of us. You know, that's what makes the story so interesting. So yeah, I mean, that seems to be the angle that he wants to take, and I'm for it because I like being the antagonist. Yeah, it's much better than being the villain. Right. So I'm all for it.
Yeah.
So when's the time frame on this?
So we're doing the documentary first, and they've been filming that. And he says by the end of the year, the doc should be out. I don't know what streaming service it's going to be on, but he's kind of using the doc to build up the movie. So yeah, he's hoping within 18 months, hopefully.
That's what Berlinger did when he did the Bundy tapes, that because he's got that Conversations of a Killer that he puts out. He's done like 3 or 4 of them. He did the Bundy ones, and then he did the Zac Efron feature, and he went to, I forget which, I think he went to Sundance and sold it for 20 million. Oof. So so then it came out there, but that was the same way he did it. He put the doc out, got
I'm assuming you got yourself a good, like,
entertainment lawyer
to handle all this for you.
Yeah. No, actually,
don't be a douchebag.
You better talk to your lawyer.
I had one named
Alan Jackson's got to know the best, or at least someone for you to talk to.
Yeah, you
need an entertainment lawyer so that you are not
fucking agent and an entertainment lawyer. Don't be a dick.
Yeah,
well, I had one. I had one, and he turned out to be a nightmare. He got me involved in this project with Matt Phelps, also known as M. William Phelps. He's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this podcast with this guy, M. William Phelps. He's a true crime guy. He's awesome. He ended up doing a hit piece on me, and it was like I was the villain of his podcast, and nobody listened to it. And I was on like a rev share thing with him. And then because he turned it into like McAlbert propaganda, it made like no money. It fucked us both over. It was just like, and then like my producer who hooked me up with him, as it turns out, like he's been best friends with this guy for years. It's like the only true crime podcaster he knows.
Oh my God.
And
you
so
never heard of that guy. That's self-dealing. That's
I gotta,
what a conflict of interest. But just get a good one now. And even if they're just re-looking over something you've already signed, and going to find some ways to make sure you're protected, you're getting the most.
Yeah, you gotta getting what you deserve out of it. You just got to get somebody who's going to know what the contracts look like, know what the terms should look like, know what the dollars could look. Because you're going to hear, oh, we never make any money on
documentaries,
right? Because
but they're using your documentary to. They're using that documentary to get more money.
Exactly.
Right.
So the docs don't make them that much money.
They don't.
Right. But because they're using it to get more money on the second, you just got to build all this.
That's the plan. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what
Compelling Pictures seems to know what they're doing. Like they're very, they
promise us you'll have another lawyer look.
Oh, I will. And
sooner rather than later.
I promise I will. And Compelling Pictures is like the reason I signed with them is because they let me know from the beginning, like that they believe in Karen Reed's innocence. Because I can't do business with anyone who thinks that she's not innocent.
On the opposite
I can't do it. You know what I mean?
The movie wouldn't be right.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to take part in the project.
Another hit piece.
Yeah, it's like I'm not doing a 50-50. Like, ooh, there's two sides of this, and They're both
they're gonna turn
competing.
you into the fucking villain. Yeah, no, like
It's
in your
inaccurate.
story's different than Karen's story. Yours is a whole different thing, man.
It is.
Right.
It's
So
very
I
different
kind of
story.
like
But he still wants the backdrop not to be like he did all this for someone who might very well be guilty.
Right,
I kinda like-
exactly.
I like Bill
exactly.
Burr for you, man. Like I
Bill
think Bill
Burr.
Burr could fucking pull you off.
Ginger?
I
He's from
want a
Canton.
I want a Boston guy. It's got to
They
be
could
a
darken
fucking
his hair.
Boston guy.
You know he's from Canton.
I know.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy. Yeah.
I-
maybe
I
he'll
know
do
he
it.
really
is,
saying
man.
anything about the case, which is
Because
bizarre.
somebody put in Aaron Paul, and like look wise, I could see Aaron Paul being a kind of a good fit. I don't know if he's got your vibe though, but Aaron, like you know who Aaron Paul is from
Yeah,
Breaking
he's
Bad.
Jesse. Has he done anything
Yeah.
besides Jesse?
Yeah,
Is he in a lot of
yeah.
movies?
He was in another series on HBO. He played like a cult leader, like for some kind of
Okay.
religious cult. I mean, dude's a pretty good actor. He's a
Yeah.
pretty good actor.
Oh,
I
he
don't-
was great. He was great in Breaking Bad,
He was
obviously.
great in Breaking Bad,
You
and he
know?
was great in the offshoot movie they did that was basically all about him. I forget what it was called, like El Camino. I think it was called after.
Yeah,
Breaking
I've seen
Bad
El
dropped.
Camino, yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, I mean, look wise, like Aaron Paul and you, he could pull you off. You know what I'm saying? But it's like he's got to have the right vibe, man. It's
Right.
more about
It's more the
being able to
vibe.
capture your essence as an
Your
actor than fucking looking like looking like you. You know what
Right,
I mean?
Right.
But when you think about Cooper and Silver Linings Playbook, which you know, like I'm a big sports fan like you know, I mean, he fucking crushed that role, man. It's like that dude, like
He crushes every role.
he crushes
he's
every role.
He's awesome.
He is fucking great, dude.
Yeah.
He's so good.
He's
Yeah,
so
that-
even like, you know, he was the best villain ever in Wedding Crashers. Like
yeah.
the
he
biggest
was great.
fucking douchebag. He sold that role so well. Or and obviously all the Hangover movies,
Yeah.
he kills that, you know.
He was great in
crushes every
The
role.
Star is Born. He's fucking
Yes.
great in that too. And he did the singing in that too, man. He was fucking
Yeah.
he's a killer actor. That would be somebody put Ryan Gosling.
Ryan
That would
Gosling
be-
People
would
are
be great.
asking
Yeah,
for
Ryan
a
Gosling's
poll,
great.
but I don't know how you'd put all these names on a poll.
Yeah,
Be
it's
a
a lot.
long list.
Yeah,
So
well,
you're-
I was on with Will the other night. We were casting Karen's, and I was adamant like they fucked up some of the casting on that one. And I'm like, because to me, Drea De Matteo from the fucking Sopranos would crush Karen. And like people were like,
Karen needs to be Jennifer Lawrence. That's the
yeah,
that's the
Jennifer Lawrence.
dude,
Yeah, I
because
love her.
Karen is Katniss Everdeen.
Yeah,
You know, like
Yeah.
this had extreme Hunger Game vibes.
it
Like,
does.
Katniss Everdeen didn't want to go into the arena, but she had to. You
Yeah.
know, and like this whole thing about outside, like that literally happened in Catching Fire at the in District 11. That's what they all fucking. There was like a silent thing of the revolution, and like she's the Mockingjay. Like it has to be Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I wouldn't complain about Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah,
That's
who
for
would?
sure.
Yeah,
No, I wouldn't.
yeah.
All right,
Uh,
when is your case is up next just for a status date, right? The very
Yeah, I think August 13th
Yeah,
is your
August
next date.
13th is my next.
Yep.
Yeah,
is that simply a status? No, I thought
no,
he
I think
said
something's
sooner.
due on that. I thought something's due on August 13th, and our next in-person one I think is the 28th of
Oh, yeah, I
August.
thought-
but I could be wrong. I'll have to
All right,
check.
we'll
I'll have
have
to
to
check in
look.
with my lawyers tomorrow.
But at the next thing, then it is going to be an actual hearing, or it's going to be to set a hearing. Do you know?
I don't know. I'll have a better answer for you.
All right,
In a
so
couple days.
what's next on the radar? You got anything you're looking at case wise?
No, I mean, other cases without Koberger. I mean, I was really looking forward to doing the Koberger one. That was going to be like my second case that I covered and watched completely blind. So that's not happening now. But I'm fascinated with the Adelsons, and I really would like to. When Donna Adelson goes to trial, I'm going to be very interested in that. I just think that the Adelson shit is fucking, and a lot of people don't. I'm like surprised. Like I talked to Will DeGlaire, he didn't know anything about it. I'm like, oh, dude, it's a fucking rabbit hole.
Oh, dude, it's
And
a fucking rat hole.
It's
And,
wild.
Jay
And
on
like, yeah, Jay, my buddy, he's been all
what's
about
his
the
channel
Adelsons.
again? It's not J-Bo Nation. It's something
It's
else.
not J-Bo Nation. What did he call it? Jay Bonius, right? Jay Bronius. He changed the
So
name
he
of it after a
covered
while.
all of them, like
He
the
was
way
all about the
Melanie
Adelson
started
thing.
covering this, he's been covering.
Well, he's
Adelson
obsessed
stuff.
with Wendy getting arrested. and
Me
her getting
too.
tried next.
How the fuck does Wendy wait? Like she's like the Florida Jen McCabe.
Right.
It's like, so let me get this straight. So She benefits directly from the murder of more than anyone else of the murder of
way
Dan
more than
Markel,
anybody else.
and that her mother and her brother were in on murdering her baby daddy, but she didn't have
Knew
to
nothing
okay
about
it.
Right.
Like,
She knows nothing
they-
about it.
Like it's like a surprise.
She was just a
Surprise!
passenger in
Yeah,
the
like,
car
what?
that drove.
Fucking
Yeah.
insane.
She was
Well,
just a passenger in a car that drove past the house.
Yeah, like
I
that's
think
crazy.
like one of the most damning things against her, she happens to drive by his block right after he's shot. So Dan Markel like gets shot like out in front of his house. The kids are in the like nightmare scenario shit, and she happens to drive by like right at the time that it happened,
And
or
how
right
about that?
after.
And how about that? Like the boyfriend that she had there that she tried to get him to go by the house right around the time it was supposed to happen. And I don't know if he went a different route. I forget his story. His testimony is fascinating.
Oh yeah,
and like it seemed like he was going to be the fall guy, and the guy was like the perfect fall guy because he's such a cuck. And you're like, oh man, Wendy was just using this because Wendy Adelson's hot. I don't care what anyone says. She's a good-looking woman, and like, she's just can manipulate men.
Oh yeah,
that's what she's good at.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that whole story is fascinating because like Donna Adelson's such a fucking villain, like the evil old grandma.
Oh man,
and
like
Charlie
the
is such a scumbag, and then the fucking Latin Kings and the FBI bump how they got him talking on the phone.
It's got all the shit.
Oh,
and they do the bump.
Story.
They do the bump with her with the feds. They do the
that was
bump
so good. The bump
my God.
and they get him to talk on the phones as a result of that. It's just fascinating.
It's so
stuff.
good.
Yeah.
You know what I like? I like that Corey Richens case out in
that's a sad one. That's
a fucking sad, dude.
It's sad story. Anytime a mother gets separated from her kids like that, and it's like and the one parent's already dead, that's sad shit.
Dude,
and like you don't want it to be true, but it appears to be true.
It appears to be true. And she writes the book, the children's book too. Dude, and like the walk the dog letter. That's got a lot of good shit in it too, man.
But what about Sandra Birchmore? I'm assuming you're all over that and going to continue to be all over that.
Yeah, I know, but it's kind of like the feds got this one. It seems like it's like the bad guy's been arrested. You'd like to see accountability from the state police.
Story behind the story,
right? It's been exposed. I don't know what else can be done. Like, everybody knows John Fanning covered this up, and Nicholas Guarino covered this up. It's like, so you guys gonna do something about this or not? So I don't know what else to do. I can't protest them. I'll get charged with witness intimidation. That's what I used to do, is show up where you're at and protest you. I can't do that anymore. So like that aside, I don't know what can be done. The Brian Walsh story, I'm going to definitely be covering. I did time with Brian Walsh and met him in jail. And I don't know if he's innocent or not, but I do know that, the odds of him being innocent, I think are slim, but let's put it that way. But I do find it fascinating that, it's the same people involved.
Same crew.
It appears as if they did some dirty tricks. They didn't follow the rules.
This is why the police need to take action when this shit is brought to light, so that someone who committed a heinous offense doesn't get off because these dirty cops did something fishy. Like, why police haven't learned you got to cut off the people that are doing shit like this right away is just besides me.
And I'm not rooting for him to get away with murder, but if that's what it takes, I'd rather see him walk than the cops be able to just continuously break the rules and violate people's civil rights. It's not right. A message needs to be sent.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And we were doing that fundraiser for you over on Nick Staro's channel today, and Melanie was on there.
Thank you so much. I gotta thank that. I found out about that right before I went on the show. I'm like, wait a minute, where all this fucking money come from in my defense fund today? Holy shit. So wow, thank you so much for that.
Our pleasure, man. Our pleasure. And she had covered the Walsh suppression motion hearing, and I hadn't seen it, and I kept asking Melanie, I'm like, or Allie did. She's like, send us the documents. And she like horrified the shit out of me, man. These guys fucked that thing up. Like it sounds like, and it goes to what you're saying. It's one of the things I'm always talking about with, people have this incorrect hatred for defense attorneys because we file suppression motions. They're like, oh, some scumbag defense attorney got him off on a suppression. And I'm like, nah, man, you're fucking pointing the finger at the wrong dude. You got to point it at the cops who violated this dude's constitutional rights, because that ultimately affects all of us. If you don't call them on that shit, then they feel like they can do it all the time, and then we're all getting fucked. You know, so you got to call them on that shit on the front end. And man, dude, it sounds like they just butchered that shit. And it's like you said, it's all the same clowns. It's fucking Proctor. It's all the same idiots, man. Like Buchanan, all the same fucking idiots. So, but like, you know, and if that, it sure seems like he's the guy, you know. I mean, obviously we can go to trial on it, but man,
those Google searches are not good.
Not good.
Not
man.
good. Like,
Not
oh
good,
my
man.
god.
You know, I wouldn't want to deal with him as a defense attorney. I'll tell you that, man.
You
So,
know.
all right, dude.
Is there anything else you want to say about your case?
Yeah,
And
speak your truth here, and then we'll kick you.
You know, nothing that hasn't been said already. I thank you guys for giving me time to talk about this, and I really appreciate how you guys are the LawTube community is taking an interest in my case as a result of the, you know, the Karen Reed case and everything. So we're gonna keep at it. I'm in great hands, and I appreciate the support of the community, and you know, thank you guys very much.
100%, brother, and you're always welcome over here when you want to shoot the shit, you know.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right, Aidan Kearney, my man, Turtleboy. See you, brother. Oh, you cut him off right at the end.
Oh, was he saying something?
Yeah, you're too quick on the trigger. He might have aced himself.
Yeah, because he's already gone.
He gone. He out of the whole thing.
So let's get to some of these supers. Sunshine became a YouTube member. What does she get, babe?
Oh, family hug.
Tons of fun. Oh, she loves me, or he loves
that's
me.
sweet. Sweet. Love that. It's a cute dog too.
Yeah. Nay says, go the Gonzo Journo. Love from Australia.
Love
Glad
it.
to have you. I'm so Wendy, Weird Debbie M. I'm so excited for this interview.
It was
Thanks
fun.
for your generosity for 4 months. 3
Yes.
months, Romy. Thank you for your generosity. She says, thanks for covering this.
100%.
Yeah. The Goodman's Gifted One Defense Diary membership. Thank you. And became a new member. What is
family hug? There you go. Family hugs.
Jen, great live. This is amazing. Thank you. Keith says, record number of beers Turtleboy is cleared in 24-hour period. Sorry, we didn't ask him.
I imagine you put a few down.
Right. Super sticker Jen again. Thank you.
Appreciate you always, girl.
What's that say? Not Cat Randall, but Dustman?
Dustman. Yeah.
Is it cool if we send Alan Jackson all the nickels?
I don't see why not. Did you see that Alan said if they had charged her for both trials, it would have been $10 million in fees?
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Let that sink in.
Kat, thank you for gifting a membership. Jennifer says, as a diplomat's kid, I couldn't be a Gonzo journalist, but Karen Reed and wrongfully convicted people need just that. Thank you, Turtleboy. Free Richard Allen, free Jamie Snow.
Takes huge balls or ovaries, depending on your gender.
Deja Vu, we love Bob and Allie. Oh, thanks, Deja.
Oh, we love you back, Deja.
Paul Young gifted a membership. Thank you for your generosity. CCR, 18 months, 19 months from an OG.
OG for real.
Yeah,
real
OG,
for real.
OG. Thanks for your generosity. Oh, I meant to ask this, Lindsay. It was like I kept putting my mouse over it so I wouldn't forget to ask it. And I didn't. I'm sorry. Lindsay says, was Proctor and McCabe and Colin Allen?
I'll see if I can get them to answer.
Really there today. All right. Bob will reach out. So Holliberry setting a hate super. Does he prefer forcibly R-wording dogs or cats? How many people has he dared to unalive themselves online? Look, we're the first to say he uses some language that, you know, we wouldn't agree with, says some stuff that, you know, it's satire and it's rude and it's crude, but that does not change the fact that the government is abusing its position to shut him up, and to make others too afraid to even start to do what he did in the Karen Reed case. Film Freak, thank you for gifting a membership. The Off-White Lotus, super sticker, thank you. History and Homicide, 5 memberships, thank you. Living the Mom Life 2025. Thanks for your generosity. My dad has been a crime scene detective in central Massachusetts for over 25 years. Pictures were always the most important thing. Crime scene tape, gloves, evidence bags,
Chain of
etc.
custody is pretty
Right?
important.
Karen is free. Time to free Turtleboy. Yes, agreed. Idiot Wind 20, gifting 20 memberships. Thanks for your generosity. Analytical Blarney AB. The statute should be used against the commissioner who intimidated Deaver. Nobody wants anyone to say Dever. She seemed awfully intimidated on that stand. Facts.
Her
Cat
entire
Randall
her
Dustin.
entire career depended on how she performed there. So
Yep. Support. I'm all in on spiritual support. Wings out. Yes. Just Jim, here's to another month and many, many more. Thank you for your generosity. 3 months.
we
3
love you, Jen.
months. Hope says Hank has been rehomed. Woohoo worldwide. Walton Goggins should play Jen McCabe in the Turtleboy movie. Woohoo to all
I
of
love
you.
Walter Goggins, and that's hilarious. He could pull it off.
Trevor Mavick says Mr. Bean
Maverick.
Maverick has to play Bettero.
It's a pretty good call.
Uh,
Bean.
Megan Tomlinson. Wait, Joseph Krowski Jr. is a heavy-hitting defense attorney there? I can't handle that, LOL. Stories never ending. Nicole Kelly says Harvey Adelson was my dentist.
Oh,
Wow, that's crazy.
Interesting factoid.
Yeah, right. Cammy 2 says Allison and Bob, hi, you two are awesome, and I wanted to tell you. Great show tonight. Thank you. Jody, you're both amazing. Thank you for supporting Turtleboy and the citizens of Massachusetts.
Thank you, Jody. We appreciate that.
Yeah. Denver Graham, FBI in Florida today.
Saw that. Finally. Oh, man.
Sky Goddess 87. Love this chat. Free Turtleboy. We have a great chat. So if you're still here and you haven't been here before, subscribe, like, follow us. We promise it'll be worth it. Julia543, member for 5 months. Please, Wisconsin versus Zachariah Anderson. Past case needs you.
I know about Zach's case. I'm looking at it. I know it's a no body case. It was a pretty questionable conviction. I have to watch the whole trial though, and frankly, I'd like to see the transcripts. But yeah, that's on my radar for sure.
Did Aidan ask you before we let everyone go?
No, not yet.
Yeah, he's probably busy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know if
who was it? Proctor? Who else?
Maybe someone they might have told us in the regular chat, and I wasn't looking. It said, was Proctor and McCabe and Colin Albert really there today? Let's see if anyone answered us. If you answered already, tell us again. So Vivian James says Jen. And Misty says they were not there. But then Harley 62 says Colin. So what we will do is if Aidan answers Bob, we will post the response in a comment on this YouTube to the live. So
yeah.
And this one, oh, I wish I was Alessi's girl, says I was there and did not see them.
All right.
So
that's pretty good intel.
All right, guys. We are so
awesome.
glad you guys were all here. Go ahead, babe.
Yeah, and if you haven't, give us a like, give us a sub. Make sure you share it, get it out there to the algo. All that shit helps. And look, if you're a replay crew, make sure you leave a comment. That helps as well. So
yeah, because the more people outside of Aidan's circle that that sees this, the more eyes on his case. So
Indeed. Indeed. All right. You guys are amazing. We appreciate your generosity. Thanks for the hangs. Hope you enjoyed it. We had a good time. We had a good time talking with Aidan. Got to know the man behind the myth. And it was interesting to have the convo. So we hope you guys loved it. Like I said, make sure you like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube things. It really helps us, because without you guys, I would just be an old man.
talking about a lot of cases.
Boop. See you.